Chapter 514. On the Fangzhong Island, a group of people stiffened as if they had been petrified. They had suffered a serious blow. The noble of the deity race, the genius of the top 10, whom they had tried so hard to befriend, was actually the son of a family servant. This was something they had never expected. They bowed and smiled apologetically, even marrying off their daughter. Their attitude was very low, even somewhat servile, just to form a relationship with the top 10 and form a good relationship with this genius. But what did they obtain in the end? The true identity of this genius was actually the son of a family servant. In other words, he was the so-called son of a servant in name and in reality. This, how could young master you be? The blood drained from the maid Ruolan's pretty face. She was on the verge of collapse and found it difficult to accept this result. She had always been looking forward to joining the top 10 with Princess Qingqi. She was incomparably proactive and even more attentive than Qingqi. In the end, she had waited for a servant's son? On the Fangzhong Island, one of the deputy island masters, Li Kai, and a few white-haired old monsters had a green aura between their brows. Their faces were twitching slightly, and their moods were terrible. If one were to trace back to the past, they were the same as the remnant races of Penglai. They were all servants of the Earth's orthodox bloodline. Although they considered themselves orthodox now, there was always a thorn in their hearts. Therefore, they really wanted to turn over this page and didn't want to touch it again. They didn't hesitate to marry off their daughter modestly in order to obtain approval and marry a powerful race in the starry skies. Who would have thought that this would be the result? The so-called noble was only the son of a family servant on the deity planet. This was a huge blow to them. Their princess was going to marry a servant? This imperceptibly stabbed them and made them think of their own past. Back then, their ancestors were just servants who were taught top-notch martial arts and bestowed with everything. They followed behind that group of experts, and their entire planet was ranked 11th in the cosmos. They felt supreme glory. But after so many years, they didn't approve of it anymore. After possessing everything, they had long since flourished with ambition. That group of experts from back then had all fallen. They had long since forgotten about old friendships and wanted to replace them. Everything left behind by that group of experts who had died in battle had been entrusted to them to a suitable descendant. But now, the people of the Fangzhong Island didn't want to hand it over. Without a doubt, if a so-called direct descendant of the orthodox lineage were to come looking for them, they would mercilessly obliterate him. Today they had suffered a heavy blow. They wanted to find a backer to fight against the old master, who might appear and kill the orphan, but the result was like this. Chu Feng's loud laughter was exceptionally ear-piercing to their ears. This made their faces lose all light, turning them ashen. They didn't hesitate to marry off the island's princess, but in the end, they found a servant. What would others think of him? Perhaps it was somewhat ironic. After Princess Qingqi learned of Yu Jubian's true identity, her slender figure gently swayed. She had also been dealt a heavy blow. The longing and fantasies in her heart had all been shattered. After laughing heartily, Chu Feng could not be bothered with the people of the Fangzhong Island. He merely glanced at them and paid them no more attention. There was no need to say more about this matter. Everyone felt that the Fangzhong Island had lost a lot of face this time. They had wholeheartedly tried to climb up the social ladder, but in the end they had become a joke. Of course, strictly speaking, it wasn't excessive to marry a servant of the deity race. After all, many people would be willing to do so if they found a backer. However, they had prematurely publicized that they were going to marry a noble of the deity race. They had claimed that he was a young great character, and it was somewhat embarrassing now that they had been exposed. Loki, you must be Loki. You can't be so ostentatious, or else you'll be very miserable. Chu Feng was lecturing Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and the others. The 4 demonic sons, saintesses, and divine sons all wanted to spit at him after hearing this. Just based on what you have done, You still have the nerve to say that you're low-key. You can't be that kind of person, Chu Feng. Yuan Mo said angrily. Stand to one side and chop meat for me. Chu Feng glared at them and immediately rendered them speechless. The low-key and reserved demon King Chu, when are you going to deliver the goods? Don't waste any more time. On the Origin Beast platform, a group of people teased and urged him. Immediately. Chu Feng replied and then berated Ziluan, don't act like a pampered girl. Chop meat and remove bones. Be more efficient. Ziluan twisted her slender waist and closed her eyes as she continued to wave the knife. How did it look like she was chopping meat? She was clearly enduring torture like a punching bag. Just what is the background of that young god behind you? I have no enmity with him in the past. Why is this stupid bird eyeing me? Chu Feng asked Yujubian. Everyone was petrified after hearing this. Who would dare call a direct descendant of the deity race a stupid bird? It was simply extremely arrogant. Was this contempt toward the deity race's descendant? This wasn't the first time Chu Feng had heard the words, young god. Earlier on, Fu Huang had said that there was a young god in the cosmos who had already sent word for Chu Feng to die. That kind of tone, that kind of attitude, it was truly aloof and remote. It was as if an emperor among the evolvers had decreed that Chu Feng should die. Now Yujubian had personally come to execute the order and kill Chu Feng. Because being born on this planet is a sin in itself. The young god doesn't like you, so he wants to destroy you. Yujubian said coldly. This was truly a tyrannical reason. He wanted to slaughter you just because he didn't like you. He was extremely domineering and domineering. But after careful thought, there was also an internal reason. This was because this was Earth, which had been conquered back then. It was reported that the 10 Greats were secretly leading the charge. Back then, it could be said that the deity race's hands were drenched in blood. Their highest level had once manifested and fought against the heaven illuminators of Earth. This dogfart young god, I also don't like him. If you have the guts, come over and I'll take your head. Chu Feng pointed at the firmament and faced the starry sky with a cold intent as he issued a challenge. It didn't matter if you were the deity race's young god or a Tao child. If you really dared to come over, I'd chop you up all the same. Then, Yujubian's lips opened and closed as he used his feeble spirit to transmit his voice. Chu Feng, you won't live. This time, you actually dared to rashly touch the woman the young god favors, Lan Shi. Originally, you could still struggle at death's door for a period of time, but now you're going to speed up your destruction. He didn't say it out loud but secretly informed him. This wasn't out of good intentions. He wanted to provoke Chu Feng and make him attack Lan Shi one step further. From there, the young god would be furious and attack him like a thunderbolt. He would retaliate with blood earlier. Chu Feng was startled upon hearing this. The rising star of the heavenly music Pure Land in the starry sky was indeed peerless in style and had the potential to become a star in the universe. Now, that young god had taken a fancy to her? His expression was odd. He had unintentionally provoked a great disaster by having a grudge with this rising star. But then he laughed. He was just about to make contact with Lan Shi and discuss all kinds of conditions. Once the negotiations failed, he would auction the star Lan Shi's inner armor in the starry sky. It would certainly cause a huge sensation. Would that young god go crazy? Heh heh. Chu Feng laughed to himself. Everyone was confused by what he was doing. Only Lan Shi, who was paying attention to this matter, had goosebumps all over her beautiful figure. Her spiritual power was rarely matched among her peers, and her intuition was quite sharp. She felt a great deal of malice. Chu Feng couldn't get anything else out of Yujubian. He also didn't want to humiliate him, so he slapped him to death with a single slap. Then, he let the 4 people begin to deal with the goods. The lamentable Yujubian was the center of attention when he arrived. His entire body was resplendent and his golden hair danced in the wind like a young god. Now, he was still the center of attention, but he had been reduced to meat. The contrast between before and after was too great. Many people were deeply moved. A place like Earth was truly a faraway place. It was too dangerous for the descendants of various families to go there. How many things had happened? There was no need to mention those who had been killed. There were also those who had been kidnapped and had no choice but to accept extortion. Now, even the people of the 10 Greats couldn't escape. They had been plotted against, and what was even worse was that they had to be sold as meat. In the starry skies, people from all walks of life had complex emotions. Some clapped their hands in delight, while others gnashed their teeth in hatred. Obviously, in the eyes of some evolutionary sects, Chu Feng was a wanton and unrestrained rebel. But in the eyes of others, he was a notorious human trafficker, a meat trafficker, and a rule challenger. He'll die miserably. Once he steps into the starry skies, he'll certainly be killed in an instant. Those old monsters are all ruthless and merciless people. They wouldn't even blink if they wanted to destroy a planet. Yes, he might not even be able to walk out of that planet. I'm guessing that the deity planet won't be able to endure this, and the Shilin clan will also be angry. The saints of all parties have been repeatedly offended and will certainly take action. In the starry skies, many people were discussing this. They felt that there was going to be a violent storm on Earth. The heavens' prides from the top-ranked peerless races would most likely descend to kill Chu Feng. That was because the commotion he had caused was too great. Very soon, Chu Feng found a folded space near the Fangzhong Island. He let the Wormhole Express come and pick up the goods, transporting away 15,000 kilograms of deity race meat. It had to be said that the Wormhole Express was too heaven-defying. On that very day, there were people on vital planets in the nearby starry skies who received the good. Heavens, this is a delicacy of the human world, a delicacy of the pinnacle. The deity race's meat is too delicious. When someone exclaimed in admiration like this, there was endless praise. The starry skies could no longer calm down, and it caused a huge commotion. Following this, people from the nearby galaxies received packages from the Wormhole Express one after another. It was exceptionally smooth, and for a moment, they all praised this meat and gave it the highest evaluation. Not bad, it's even more delicious than the golden Arhut level bird king I ate back in the day. This is indeed a top-notch delicacy, and I'm very satisfied. Little friend Chu Feng, do you still have more deity meat? There are 1,000 kilograms of it. This time, I'm going to invite some esteemed guests to a banquet. This can be the main dish. Obviously, this was an old monster with frightening strength. There were many people like this. In reality, most of the beings who bought the deity race's meat weren't simple. Otherwise, who would be so extravagant and wasteful for the sake of good food? Oh, it's wonderful. It can be considered a top-notch delicacy in the starry skies. I think it suits my appetite very well. Deity meat is worthy of being called treasured meat. A group of old monsters and a group of lunatics evaluated it in such a way. It immediately caused a heated discussion and a huge uproar that shook every corner of the universe. For a moment, deity meat was ridiculously expensive, and everyone wanted to buy it. Chu Feng decisively fanned the flames and said, "This is indeed a top-notch delicacy to invite an esteemed guest to a banquet. It's a show of sincerity. A friend is treating you to deity meat. What kind of friendship is this? It's worth cherishing for a lifetime. A lover is courting you and treating you to deity meat. What else is there to worry about? If he dares to betray you, you can go tell the deity race. Now that the touchstone of love has appeared, let him or her treat you to deity meat." Chu Feng's publicity immediately caused a group of people to be dumbstruck. Then, many people began to curse one after another. If you had a lot of deity meat, then so be it. You could go and buy it, but you just had to sell it all out. You even had to promote it like this. This was truly despicable and shameful. Especially some young men and women. Some people really hoped that this was the touchstone of love, and some resentful men and women simply wanted to tear Chu Feng apart because of this. In any case, the deity meat was on fire. It was simply a complete mess. At this moment, even the creatures on the deity planet knew about it. Originally, they were far away from the starry skies. They were aloof and disdained to pay attention to these things, but now they had no choice because it involved them. "You're courting death." After that young god found out, he smashed the entire cave residence with one palm and left in anger. On this day, Chu Feng sold the remaining less than 5,000 kilograms of deity meat for 4 billion cosmic dollars. Even so, it was still sold out. He regretted it again. He felt that he had sold it too early and earned less. With so many cosmic dollars, I can buy some heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the starry skies. For example, the deity elixir from the black market, secret books, and so on. Chu Feng's face was full of smiles. He was extremely happy. "I say, young god of the deity race, come quickly. I'm still preparing to sell my meat. I think the quality of your meat will be even higher." On this day, he shouted ostentatiously. At the same time, he also shouted, "Wei Heng, Wei Jun Tueg, have you thought it through? Do you want to accept my challenge?" Jun Tua, who had originally stayed out of this matter, and felt that he had finally escaped from the maelstrom, had his big black face sink once again. He really wanted to curse. "Didn't you have your eyes on the deity race? Why are you still thinking about me? You mention me every time. Goddamn it, you're courting death." In reality, the commotion in the starry skies was too great. Every party was reacting intensely. The true tide was about to arrive, and some terrifying heroes were about to set off. Some heavenly geniuses were about to set foot on Earth. And it was also on this day that Wei Heng, who was known as the ninth under the starry skies, finally responded. The great era had arrived. Chapter 5:15. Chu Feng wanted to go to Mount Eternal. He hadn't been there for some time. He didn't know how Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, the Old Donkey, and Ouyang Feng were doing, and whether they had left messages for him on the stone wall. At the thought of this, Chu Feng's emotions fluctuated as he thought of the days he had spent with them. If they came out now, it would definitely be much more lively. He expected that if that old hoodlum, the Black Yak, was here, kidnapping divine sons, hunting saintesses, and all kinds of auctions would be much smoother. With the addition of the Manchurian Tiger and the Old Donkey, the scene was truly unimaginable. As for Ouyang Feng, if he were to come out and look at the various divine sons, saintesses, and saints from the outer realms with that kind of gaze, he reckoned that he wouldn't need to say anything because he would have enemies everywhere. He really missed the days when Chu Feng was with them. Even though they had encountered all kinds of dangers and troubles, they were still quite happy and cheerful. "I reckon that the so-called underwater cave dwelling will come into being for a period of time. I'm short on time, so I'm really not in the mood to guard here. You guys pay attention. If it comes into being, kill your way in and fight fiercely for the opportunities and fortunes." Before leaving, Chu Feng invited Yuan Mo and Zi Luan to a fish feast on the big ship in the Blue Sea. He told them to let loose and not be afraid of anything. The deity race's meat was curled up with golden light, and the rich fragrance drifted several kilometers away. Yuan Mo was full of wild nature. He ate the meat in big mouthfuls and drank big bowls of wine. He didn't need Chu Feng to say much and was unruly and difficult to tame. Ziluan was like a chick pecking at rice. She nodded continuously and couldn't wait for him to hurry up and leave. She was always flustered while guarding this demon like a bullied wife. As for the divine Sun Jian, he and Saintess Li Feng with a supermodel's slender figure, they were fairly steady and definitely wouldn't disobey Chu Feng. Chu Feng's photon computer was turned off because there were too many people contacting him at the present stage. There were old monsters who wanted to buy deity race's meat, and there were mysterious buyers who wanted to buy saintesses. It was really too chaotic. Someone sent word to you. At this time, Ziluan's bright red mouth formed an O shape, and her beautiful eyes widened in shock. It's those people who want to buy saintesses and princesses again, right? Tell them there's no stock for now, and I'll go hunting when I come back. Well, I'll keep a few precious saintesses for myself. Even if it's not enough to make a dozen, I'll make a 9 beauties painting, Chu Feng said quite calmly. Black lines appeared on Ziluan and Li Feng's jade-white foreheads when they heard this, and they puckered their lips yet didn't dare refute. And, that's right, are there any goddesses, saintesses, or empresses that are especially famous? Is Lan Shi the most famous at the moment? Yuan Mo undermined him and said, there is. Yingzhixian, a heaven's pride and goddess. At the same time, she's a famous star in the starry sky. She's from the 10 Greats, and her younger brother is Ying Wudi. Do you dare to capture her? Chu Feng didn't care and said, she didn't come to Earth, and there's no enmity between us, so I'm embarrassed to kill her. You guys keep an eye out for me. If an enemy of this level really comes, for example, that young god's elder sister or younger sister appears, contact me immediately. Both Yuan Mo and Zhan He had strange expressions on their faces. This demon was really boundlessly daring. Did he want to run amok? That young god hadn't even fought yet, but he was already thinking about his sisters first. Hey, I have important news here. You've gone off topic, Ziluan spoke again. We're talking about beauties. Why are you dissatisfied? Yuan Mo shot her a glance. The 9th saint under the starry sky, Wei Heng, has spoken. He says that if you dare jump again, he'll crush you to death with one finger. Ziluan informed Chu Feng. Wei Heng, the saint of the Shilin clan, was quite contemptuous. Just like the last time he came to Earth. He looked down on this vital planet from high above and spoke in a cruel and disdainful manner. Wei Jun Tueg, did he really reply? Chu Feng was astonished. But he disdained to accept the challenge and said you weren't qualified. When he was unrivaled under the heavens, he didn't even know which speck of dust you were. Ziluan relayed. Wei Heng. Chu Feng withdrew his smile and surged with murderous intent. Thinking about how Wei Heng had cut off the old Saint Uncle Ming's head and marinated it in a jar, he wanted nothing more than to kill his way over to the Shilin clan. The 9th under the starry sky in the past was indeed stunning. Now, his name had shaken the starry seas and was known as a peerless saint. He was incomparably terrifying, sweeping through the same realm without rival. Ziluan informed. He said that his descendant has set off and is about to enter Earth. He's the current divine son of the Shilin clan. After killing you, he'll announce the Shilin clan's official return and once again become the master of this planet. She was fairly dutiful and told him the news from the starry sky. Chu Feng said, Wei Jun Tueg, he's still relying on his status. Fine, I'll kill his descendant and see who else he can send out. The divine son of the Shilin clan, the strongest descendant of this generation, has come at the right time. Everyone knew that the matter of the Shilin clan's divine son crossing over was very serious. The impact was even greater than the arrival of the deity race's young god, because it involved the fight for the orthodoxy of Earth. The Shilin clan had long since rebelled. Now that they wanted to return, they wanted to use Chu Feng as a sacrifice to announce their return. They were very arrogant and disdainful of Earth's current native evolvers. They believed that they were all mixed-blood descendants and not the orthodoxy at all. Only their return could be considered justifiable and cause them to rise brilliantly during the mother planet's recovery. Who else is coming? This time, Chu Feng was very restrained and calm. He had long since anticipated that there would be a storm on Earth and that a group of ruthless characters would come. Sure enough, it had begun. The machine race's divine son is also about to arrive. He's threatening to find you to exchange pointers. The so-called exchange was too elegant, but in reality, he wanted to kill Chu Feng. This race was extremely strong and had a close relationship with the Shilin clan. They were allies. Those robots should all be turned into scrap metal, Chu Feng said coldly. Naturally, he wouldn't forget the last time the machine army had soared through the sky and chased him for thousands of kilometers. They killed their way from the eastern sea to the famed mountains, causing him to shed blood along the way. Back then, he had fought until his intestines were flowing out. It was extremely bitter. If Yao Yao hadn't appeared at the critical moment and smashed the battleships all over the sky with one slap, he would have been in danger. Chu Feng's voice was cold and indistinct as he said, "Times have changed. If they come again, it's just the right time to settle this debt. Their divine son has arrived and we'll settle it all together. Let's see what his material is like. When the time comes, we'll refine him into molten iron and reforge him into armor." After hearing this, everyone felt somewhat emotional. Even though they were used to this demon's ostentatious self-confidence, they were still apprehensive at this moment. The machine race was considered a top-notch race. They had evolved for a long time, and the divine sons of each generation had considered themselves mechanical Vajras. Their bodies were invincible. Big news. The deity race's young god has really set out. He's leading a group of top-notch geniuses on a journey. They're all the strongest descendants of each race. They're rushing toward Earth. Ziluan cried out in alarm. This was the news that had just come out and she read it to Chu Feng. Previously, it was only a rumor, but now it was confirmed. That young god had indeed set out and was coming with unparalleled power. He would grace Earth with his presence in the near future. Ziluan added, "He's already issued a decree ordering a group of divine sons to follow him into battle. Yes, he's even told you to kill yourself and not wait for him to personally take action." Chu Feng wasn't angry. He spoke calmly and said, "It seems I'll have to make an appointment with Lan Shi before he appears. Didn't that young god take a fancy to her? I just won't let him have his way." "Wow!" Ziluan cried out in alarm and said, "Sure enough, a storm is brewing. Something big has happened. All kinds of fierce people and many great races have come." "Who else?" asked Chu Feng. "The 12th ranked planet. The people there are also coming," Ziluan informed him, her emotions fluctuating. "A race that has grasped the netherworld breathing technique." Chu Feng's face immediately turned gloomy. That was because he had already understood many old matters from the Inheritance Energy Pagoda when he was on the moon. Back then, the evolvers from the 12th ranked planet had come out in full force. They commanded every part of the starry skies and led the armies of many vital planets to attack Earth. On the surface, they were the main force. In reality, they had the support of a few of the 10 greats behind them. For instance, the deity race had sent out all the heaven illuminators to participate in the siege. In any case, the race that had grasped the netherworld breathing technique was the nominal leader back then. For instance, the heavenly knights obeyed their orders. Now, this race had come again. "Very well, come at me. Since we can't do anything to their saint, we'll attack the small ones first. We'll eliminate them one by one." Chu Feng clenched his fist. Ziluan was very dutiful. She reported seriously and said, "The netherworld race's supreme saint has spoken. He called you a bug and said that Wei Heng won't fight you. He'll fight you instead. Of course, the premise is that you can survive this storm." The netherworld race's saint? Who does he think he is? Fighting on the Origin Beast strike platform at the same level? When the time comes, I'll eliminate him. Chu Feng was full of enmity toward this race. After all, they were the main force that had destroyed the Earth. They had once commanded the vital planets of various domains to form a united army to attack the ancestors. In his eyes, this was a bloody executioner on the same level as the Heavenly Knights, the Shilin clan, and the 10 Great. They could be considered one of the main culprit. Yuan Mo said to provoke Chu Feng, "This green onion is very big." Back then, he was known as the eighth under the starry skies. He was exceptionally terrifying, one rank higher than Wei Heng. That era was exceptionally brilliant. Later generations studied it and believed that that generation was the most terrifying. 100 vessels were vying for the current, and the proud sons of heaven pursued hegemony. They simply suppressed the Tao children of the Ten Great. Chu Feng was moved. This saint from the netherworld race was actually so powerful back then? Then he thought of Yao Yao. During that most splendid era, she had suppressed all outstanding heroes and was number one under the heavens. She was simply too transcendent. I'll also give you a chance. Bug, if you don't die in this storm, we'll meet on the Origin Beast platform. Today Wei Heng spoke again. As before, he called Chu Feng a bug. Wei Jun Tua Egg has also agreed. Damn it, I'll beat you to death. Chu Feng gnashed his teeth. He really didn't have a good impression of Wei Heng and wanted nothing more than to hack him into pieces. The whole world was shocked. Everyone knew that there would inevitably be a huge storm coming. A great era of turbulent winds and clouds had arrived. Every race believed that a top-notch saint wouldn't make a move so easily. It would be too undignified to do so. The reason why he said this was obviously because he believed that Chu Feng would die without a doubt. He wouldn't be able to survive this storm. After careful thought, it made sense. The deity race's young god had come in person and led a group of top-notch saint children to hunt. How many people of the same generation could match him? Who could survive? In addition, the Shilin clan's divine son, the machine race's divine son, and the netherworld race, which wasn't any weaker than the Ten Greats, had also sent people. This race possessed a peerless breathing technique and was now ranked 11th in the universe. In addition, there were even more famous characters. Wandering cultivators, demonic sons, fairies, and so on set out one after another. Many of them were descendants of heaven illuminators. The matter grew bigger and bigger. The earth had become the center of the storm. Chapter 5:16. In the Eastern Sea, a certain sea region was filled with clouds and mist. The Yin-Chi was heavy as it covered the waters ahead. Chu Feng went deeper and finally saw an island. The dusky mist became increasingly dense as he successfully landed on the island. This was the island where Mount Eternal was located. Ordinary people simply couldn't find it or approach it. Chu Feng was able to find it because he had a stone he had brought out from Mount Eternal. He could use it to enter and exit the island. The island was too quiet. It was deathly silent. Along the way, the ground was covered with rocks and plants, but they were all dry and rotten with a serious aura of decay. He didn't stop and rushed straight to the center of the island. There were 7 boundlessly huge mountains there, towering into the sky. That was Mount Eternal. Chu Feng arrived at the mountain gate and once again saw a large number of corpses with some spiritual intelligence. They were either dry or rotten, but there were still some flames in the depths of their eye socket. That was a soul on the verge of being extinguished. This was like an island of death filled with countless corpse-like creatures. There were humans, fierce beasts that were hundreds of meters long, 10-meter-long black ants, and skinny 9-tailed white foxes. There were all kinds of races with a decaying aura. It was as if he had arrived at the entrance to hell as a sea of dead creatures appeared. Chu Feng rushed to the mountain pass and saw words carved on the brown rock. The big black yak and the Manchurian tiger had indeed come out and left him a message. Moreover, it was densely packed and had a lot of words. Chu Feng, we're evolving at lightning speed. Our physiques have greatly improved, and our life levels are leaping. This kind of advancement even scares us. Sigh, what a worry. Without a doubt, this was the big black yak's message. Even without seeing it, one could feel the pride on his face. The big black yak added more. He told Chu Feng in all kinds of ostentatious ways that there was a divine medicine in the depths of Mount Eternal. After eating it, it could transform people and increase their strength dramatically. Unfortunately, although the divine medicine is good, it can't be brought out. You don't have the fortune to enjoy it. The taste is really delicious. It's a type of purple berry that emits a glaring light like the sun. It melts in your mouth and its fragrance spreads for dozens of miles. After eating it, your pores will emit purple light as if you're about to sprout wings and ascend. You'll feel comfortable as your feet float off the ground. Big Blackie described it in detail. He could feel that he was in a good mood and that smug look on his face. At the end, Old Donkey added, "Little Chew, we are all advancing by leaps and bounds. You have to work hard and not fall behind. You will be shocked the next time we meet." Chu Feng was speechless. This spineless old donkey had never dared to address him as Little Chew in the past. He was greedy for life, afraid of death, and cowering in all kinds of ways. At the same time, he was also very wretched. Now that the old donkey was acting so cocky, he felt that these people must have encountered great fortunes and their strength had increased explosively. Otherwise, the Donkey King wouldn't dare to be so confident. Chu Feng was very happy. Earlier on, he was still worried about their situation, but now it seemed that it was far better than what he had imagined. There was actually a divine medicine in Mount Eternal. It was indeed astonishing, as expected of a place to cultivate demon sages. He sighed with emotion. This place was too sinister. If he failed, he would become a living dead, but if he succeeded, he was destined to rise up and become a saint. Other historical remains, caves, and other places only had inheritances, few restrictions. However, there were all types of terrifying and strict requirements here. It was because this place specialized in nurturing demon saints. If one couldn't become a saint in the end, they would be considered a failed product. It was obvious how terrifying Mount Eternal was. No wonder even Yao Yao had once praised Yellow Cattle and the others and said that they had encountered great fortunes. Here, there was no need for Chu Feng to worry about giving them immortal peaches and cinnabar fruit. There was everything here. As long as one's talent and willpower were astonishing enough, they could walk step by step and survive. They would obtain all kinds of benefits and be rigorously nurtured. Brother, don't be disheartened if you can't keep up with our speed of evolution. Brother Tiger will protect you in the future. A while ago, I swallowed a Buddhist relic condensed from the essence blood left behind by a golden Arhat black tiger. Cleansed my body and transformed me along the way. Now, my blood energy is flourishing like the sea. This was the Manchurian tiger's message. These people were cocky along the way. Their messages were brimming with optimism, joy, and confidence. In the end, they skimmed over their cocky messages and saw the serious words below. These people repeatedly warned Chu Feng to take care of himself. If he was bullied, hunted, or met an enemy he couldn't defeat, he must endure patiently and not risk his life. He must wait for them to come out and help him vent his anger. Chu Feng smiled and felt warm in his heart. At least these fellows hadn't floated to the heavens yet. Afterwards, they also poured out their grievances and told the truth. A giant rock recorded their worries. It said that Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng had disappeared for a period of time and hadn't come out. Chu Feng had long since known that only Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng had entered the depths of Mount Eternal's training ground and stepped on a path of life and death. If they succeeded, they would inevitably become peerless demon masters. If they failed, they would become living corpses. The big black yak, the Manchurian tiger, the Donkey King, and the golden condor were all self-aware. They waited outside the dangerous land and didn't follow. Little Yellow has finally come out. His whole body is covered in blood and wounds. Seeing him makes our hearts ache, but we can't replace him. However, he's becoming stronger. The big black yak's true nature was revealed. His message was filled with worry and gratification. Brother, we don't know how you're doing outside. Don't show off. Take care of yourself and wait for us to come out and help you vent your anger. We're all good here. Little Yellow always brings out large amounts of spoils of war and lets us bask in his glory. Also, that Ouyang Feng is really not bad. He brought out divine medicines and wonderful technique. He's very generous, but his mouth is too poisonous. He said he was about to vomit after eating treasured medicines. He said he wanted to vomit after watching us eat great medicines. Chu Feng felt that Ouyang Feng had obtained too many fortunes. He reckoned his strength had long since increased explosively. However, he was still quite ostentatious. He felt that this fellow's habit of looking at people askance would worsen when they met again. He thought of that toad. He reckoned that the scene would be very explosive if he were to look askance at a group of divine sons and saintesses after escaping. It would most likely be attacked by a group of people. Chu Feng arrived. The first time he met it, its saliva was like a downpour and almost drenched his head and face. However, Ouyang Feng was indeed a divine beast. He was indeed powerful and had fought fiercely with Chu Feng before being suppressed in the end. If he were to rise up here, his strength would be even more terrifying. As for the yellow cattle, he was even less worried. It had a root of wisdom and extraordinary talent. It knew everything that Chu Feng knew and had practiced to the acme of perfection. The young yellow cattle had displayed incomparably terrifying combat strength back then. Then, Chu Feng saw the message on another stone wall. We've learned the peerless arts of the demon race. Unfortunately, we made a blood oath to the demonic ancestor that we can't impart it to beings outside the demon race. Chu Brat, we can't impart it to you for now. We'll talk about it later. A heaven-shaking fortune. Yellow Cattle has changed his breathing technique. He had a great harvest in the depths of the danger zone and cultivated the breathing technique left behind by the demonic ancestor. He wants us to tell you that the one he imparted to you seems to be incomplete and missing the following chapters. There were a lot of densely packed words on this stone wall. In the beginning, the Black Yak and the others had relayed it to Yellow Cattle. Later on, Yellow Cattle came out himself and told him in detail. He was worried that there would be problems during Chu Feng's evolution. Apparently, it wasn't easy for Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng to come up with these words. That was why there were very few messages left. They had been fighting in the danger zone for a long time. Chu Feng, your breathing technique should be the ultimate breathing technique on Earth, but it's missing a lot after scattering into the starry skies. You have to try to make up for it and search carefully outside. Otherwise, it'll be difficult to support your later evolution. Additionally, the thunderous breathing technique is also incomplete. I've obtained a peerless technique, but it's very important and I don't dare leave it on the stone wall. It'll be troublesome if it's leaked. If we meet again in the future, I can think of a way to impart it to you. I don't think the demonic ancestor's oath is too restrictive. These were Yellow Cattle's words, and it made Chu Feng feel very warm. He wrote seriously and responded by telling Yellow Cattle not to worry about him. He had already found the following chapters of the robbery induction. At the same time, he was happy for Yellow Cattle. Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng the Toad were destined to become terrifying experts. If they reappeared, they would absolutely be able to sweep through a region. The Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, the Old Donkey, and the other's strength had also increased dramatically. Not only did Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng bring out heaven-defying divine medicines from the danger zone, but they also brought out all kinds of secret technique. Chu Feng, it's difficult for you to find divine medicines outside, so don't be in a hurry to enter the carefree realm. It's best to use divine medicines as a supplement to sever your entire body's shackles. This is the demonic ancestor's message. It was mentioned several times during the initial stage of nurturing Saint. Yellow Cattle left a serious message to inform him. At this point, Chu Feng heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Mount Eternal was indeed as Yao Yao had said. It lacked nothing and had many fortunes that could allow the talented demon race descendants to grow. Chu Feng left a message to reassure them. He told them that he had removed the altar on Mount Tai and that he didn't lack divine medicines. He still had the peach of immortality and the cinnabar fruit that he hadn't finished eating. At the same time, he told them about some of Yao Yao's insights on evolution. Chu Feng, when we meet again, I want to take you as my mount. I'll ride you to see the world, explore the world, take in goddesses, and display my peerless elegance. Such an undisguised provocation was naturally left by Ouyang Feng. One could imagine its squinting attitude. It was really asking for a beating. Afterwards, Chu Feng saw their final message. The things they mentioned made him pleasantly surprised. There was an ancient energy pagoda within Mount Eternal. It had its own complete will and could sense the changes in the world outside. It told Yellow Cattle, Ouyang Feng, and the others that Earth was undergoing drastic changes recently. Perhaps they could be released into the real world to fight and test the results of their evolution. The Energy Pagoda told us that the so-called trial ground isn't limited to Mount Eternal. When the time is right, the entire Earth's main space will be the same. A long time ago, Mount Eternal chose Earth because it felt that sooner or later there would be turbulence here. There would be geniuses from various races fighting for hegemony, and there would be a resplendent golden age. It was the ideal trial ground. Chu Feng was naturally excited. This indicated that Yellow Cattle, the Black Yak, the Old Donkey, and Ouyang Feng would come out at any time. At that time, they would be able to reunite. Chu Feng decisively left a message and told them about the recent happenings, such as the kidnapping of saint children and the trafficking of saintesses. Come out quickly. Every time I go out, I have goddesses and saintesses opening the way. At night, I'll add incense to my sleeves. You guys come early. At the same time, he also told them that he was going to have a decisive battle with the saints on the Origin Beast platform. Moreover, he was also going up against the young god of the deity race and the divine son of the Shilin clan. During the turbulent times, Chu Feng told them in detail who his enemies and who his adversaries were so that they wouldn't be clueless when they came out. After that, Chu Feng took out a crystal with a drop of golden liquid sealed inside. It was the deity elixir. He pinched open the crystal and swallowed the deity elixir in one gulp. That was because Yellow Cattle, Ouyang Feng, and the others had advanced by leaps and bounds and would come out at any time. The brothers were going to reunite and conquer those enemies. Naturally, he had to become stronger. In a split second, golden light erupted from Chu Feng's body. Another ball of resplendent golden light enveloped him. In a split second, he was glowing like a sun and was incomparably dazzling. At this moment, even his hair had turned golden and hung down to his waist. Then, it danced violently in the wind. As for his pupils, needless to say, they were also golden. Chu Feng's entire body was golden and extremely dazzling. The deity elixir had miraculous effect. It was conditioning his body, soothing his internal injuries, and removing all kinds of hidden dangers. It made his body flawless, sparkling, and strong. Chu Feng felt his entire body become ethereal. The sequelae left behind by severing dozens of shackles in one go on Mount Tai had all disappeared. At that time, his blood and qi had dried up and he had almost died on Mount Tai. Even though he had eaten the Starcore turtle egg after returning to Mount Longhu to make up for it, there were still some minor problems that needed time to slowly recuperate. Now it was all good. His entire body was golden and his vitality was extremely dense. His spiritual power was also incomparably pure. Chapter 5:17. The deity elixir's miraculous effects helped Chu Feng resolve all kinds of hidden dangers. His whole body was golden and didn't fade for a long time. There was a mysterious force purifying his body, and even his spirit was becoming increasingly pure, making him ethereal. His hair was golden and flowing with splendor. From afar, he looked like a deity. After a long time, the golden light on Chu Feng's body gradually faded. He felt rather strange. His blood, flesh, bones, and spirit were all in good condition. His inner vision was as clear as crystal. This was a type of baptism. Chu Feng smiled and stretched his limbs. He was increasingly satisfied as his physical qualities rose to their strongest state. Then, he prepared to evolve outside of Mount Eternal. He took out the bright red peach and took a bite. The juices flowed and gushed with multicolored light. If someone saw this, they would certainly stare blankly. This was a divine medicine. The rich fragrance spread out for who knew how many kilometers. Auspicious light soared around Chu Feng's body as scarlet multicolored light seeped out. For a moment, a layer of dense light enveloped him. The cells in his body became more active as they began to transform and evolve once again. After getting rid of the hidden dangers, he had no more misgivings. He consumed the great peach medicine to improve his constitution and achieve a super evolution. After eating the peach, Chu Feng was still worried and ate a few more dark red cinnabar fruit. His mouth was full of juice and its fragrance gave him the illusion that he was about to ascend. Next, Chu Feng's transformation was somewhat astonishing. The divine light suddenly converged, and his skin dried up and lost its luster. Then, a slight cracking sound was heard. However, the cell activity in his body became increasingly strong and erupted. His vitality was like a volcano erupting. Before long, Chu Feng's dull skin cracked and emitted a slight crisp sound. Amidst the rustling sounds, a layer of old skin fell off and blossomed with multicolored light. This kind of transformation was somewhat frightening. It was like a snake shedding its skin and growing its body. Chu Feng's height didn't change, but his body was like jade, sparkling and firm. Every inch of his body was gushing with divine light as he became increasingly powerful. His current evolution no longer severed the shackles, but it was still substantially improving his constitution and nourishing his spirit. The old skin on his body fell off, and even his hair was changing. It was extremely shocking. Now, his body was more translucent and flawless than many beauties. His long black hair hung down to his waist. Buzz! Chu Feng's body glowed, and his vital energy surged. His pores emitted blazing radiance, and it was as if he was covered in divine splendor and enveloped in a resplendent halo. This made him feel a powerful and unparalleled power. Every time he lifted a hand or a leg, he would have a terrifying destructive power. On his forehead, a flame of light throbbed. That was his spirit, and it was almost tangible. It made his senses increasingly sharp, and he could easily move larger and heavier objects through the air. Without a doubt, in this way, when he used his spiritual martial arts, his strength would also increase greatly. The evolution continued. After passing the initial stage, there were all kinds of subtle changes that made him feel that his body's activity was constantly increasing. There were no so-called shackles in the carefree realm, nor were there dozens of levels. It was very simple. Chu Feng jumped from the early stages to the middle and late stages of the carefree realm. Unfortunately, the peaches of immortality had been plucked a long time ago and had been on display for too long. The loss of various effective substances was too severe. Otherwise, how could a divine herb that had just been plucked have such little effect? Moreover, this was not a fruit borne by the immortal peach ancestral root. Otherwise, even if he couldn't ascend with the rosy clouds, he could still be reborn and undergo a great leap in the level of life. But Chu Feng was already content. If he really were to surpass the carefree realm, then there would truly be problems because he lacked the corresponding experience. Now, he was taking one step at a time. Even if his evolution was violent and rapid, it was still very solid because he had experienced all the processes. He still had the cinnabar fruit on him, But he didn't eat it. He needed to comprehend it. Even if he could only stay in the middle and late stages of the carefree realm for 10 days or half a month, he still had to stop. I can't miss any level. I have to carefully feel it. Only by polishing in this way can I have a solid foundation and walk further. He spent the next day adapting to the changes in his body. Moreover, he was still slowly improving his physique. The evolution hadn't completely finished. Bang! Chu Feng's body trembled as he displayed the painting scroll he had splashed. It slowly unfurled and the invincible chapter appeared. This level of improvement was multifaceted. Naturally, he couldn't bypass the painting scroll that used his vitality as the paper and his spirit as the paint. The top 100 stars all contained living beings and were accompanied by all kinds of strange phenomena. Some stars had the primal chaos lotus pond, some had golden paper called the wordless heavenly book, and some, the living beings accompanied by their respective painting scrolls, slowly unfurled. They were branded on the stars and revolved around his true body. Boom! Chu Feng attacked. His body moved, and the painting scroll accompanied him. It destroyed everything as easily as breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. However, this was Mount Eternal. He couldn't cause too much damage here or else there would be a big problem. Chu Feng stared at the painting scroll and perfected it a step further. He made it increasingly clear, incomparably real, and its destructive power even more powerful. Last time, he didn't even use his own invincible painting scroll when he fought with Yu Jubian. He didn't want to expose it prematurely. He wanted to use this opportunity to go to the Origin Beast platform to fight against those of the same realm and hunt down saints. It's difficult to think about it. After all, he's a top-notch saint. Countless years have passed, and he has long since tempered every level of his evolution to a perfect and flawless state. Chu Feng said to himself. He knew that it was too dangerous to fight against the number 9 under the starry skies. He might die. Therefore, he could only become stronger and stronger. At this level, he had to reach the most perfect state. He couldn't say that he was number 1 since time immemorial, but he had to be at the front and walk to the end of the road. It's difficult, but it's also possible to achieve. Chu Feng firmly believed that as long as he improved to the extreme and couldn't go any further, even a top-notch saint who had tempered for a long time and reached a flawless state in the corresponding realm wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Chu Feng drew his own painting scroll, striving for perfection. Afterwards, he used another day to display his fists and feet, cultivate his physical martial arts, and also his spiritual martial arts. His body was like a beam of flowing light as he moved in front of Mount Eternal. He suddenly disappeared and suddenly appeared. He was really too fast. His fist shone and illuminated the area, breaking through the thick mist. This was the flowing light fist. Next, he displayed the crane sword. Light beams gushed out from his fingers. This was an attack technique that mobilized all the energy in his body. All of it shot out from the mouth of the crane. This kind of wondrous technique was most effective when used to attack fortifications and break defenses. When the chaotic star finger appeared, it was like beams of lasers interweaving and illuminating the lifeless mountainous region in a splendid manner. Next, he displayed the spiritual martial arts he had stolen from the Shilin clan. The space between his eyebrows shone and beams of light flew out one after another. They interweaved together and constructed a spiritual cage. All of this was activated by the robbery induction breathing technique. It was different from the original version, but the effect wasn't weak. His ultimate goal wasn't to duplicate it, but to combine it. He felt that these secret techniques could be fused together and ultimately develop his own art of invincibility. Now, Chu Feng felt that only the resonance technique could be considered his own. After returning to the origin, it had been analyzed to the extreme. He believed that this was an even more powerful technique than the ones he had stolen. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call it a heaven-defying technique. It was a true trump card. In reality, he had relied on the resonance technique and his own energy body to defeat a great enemy at the visualization level. Chu Feng stayed on this island filled with the smell of decay for more than 2 days. He used this time to evolve, develop the art of invincibility, and digest his recent gains. By the time he stopped, the evolution had already ended. Just like in the past, hunger was unbearable. His abdomen was like thunder and his stomach was in pain. Fortunately, he was well prepared. He had the flesh of the deity race on him. He roasted and boiled it outside Mount Eternal to replenish his body's need. Chu Feng dug out a silver box on the island. This was a treasure he had obtained from Mount Qinling. Yao Yao told him that the robbery induction breathing technique was hidden inside. In the end, he tried it but still couldn't open it. Seems like it's still lacking some maturity. Chu Feng realized that the breathing technique could still support his evolution and casting technique. At the same time, he picked up the stone box containing the 3 seed. At first, he had a bad premonition and was afraid that something would happen to him. He had buried some of his most important items outside Mount Eternal, and now he was taking them away. Chu Feng came out of seclusion and left Mount Eternal. He walked out of this foggy sea region and returned to the eastern sea. Kill! By the time he arrived at the previous sea region, he heard shouts of war shaking the sky. All kinds of auspicious lights were surging, weapons were colliding, and some people were fighting fiercely. There was a large number of sea beast corpses on the surface of the sea. Fresh blood dyed the waters red. Chu Feng cursed inwardly. Just 2 days after he went to evolve, the underwater cave residence had come into being. He was worried that powerful enemies from the outer realms would suddenly arrive, so he left decisively to increase his cultivation. He hadn't expected that a blessed land in the eastern sea would come into being during these 2 days. The people fighting on the surface of the sea were only a small portion. Most of them had long since rushed to the bottom of the sea and broke into that ancient residence. Boom! At this moment, Chu Feng didn't conceal himself at all. His whole body erupted with light and he charged over. Dazzling divine light gushed out from his pores and illuminated the area. This was practically like a deity descending to the mortal world. His black hair had turned a pale gold in the divine light, and it was completely illuminated. As for his body, it was as if it was cast from immortal divine gold. Demon King Chu is here. Someone cried out and quickly dodged. A group of people scattered in all directions, afraid of him. Where are Ziluan, Yuanmo, Zhan He, and Li Feng? Chu Feng called out. He wanted to understand the situation. Under the sea, the undercurrents were surging and the splendor was glaring. The battle was even more intense, and one could vaguely see a cave residence glowing. The interior of the residence was flowing with radiance like a divine realm. Chu Feng called out continuously. After several calls, a response came from the distance. Ziluan appeared with bloodstains on her face. Her face was a bit pale, as if she had been frightened. When she saw Chu Feng, she was a bit afraid, hopeful, and wronged. Her expression was complicated. How long has it been since the cave residence opened? What happened to you? Chu Feng asked her. Ziluan had wounds on her body, and they weren't light either. She was still bleeding. The cave residence has been open for over a day. Yuanmo and I participated in the competition, but in the end we were targeted. Many people besieged us and didn't allow us to set foot inside. Ziluan was resentful, but at the same time she felt a lingering fear. Targeted? Chu Feng frowned. Some people heard that the deity race's young god was coming. They were very excited and wanted to welcome him. The few of us walked with you, but we were isolated and attacked. Ziluan hadn't finished speaking when Chu Feng knew what was going on. Yuanmo and the others wanted to seize the fortune, but in the end, they were besieged by some people. Chu Feng's gaze was cold. Some things were playing out ahead of time. He, the young god, the divine son of the Shilin clan, and the 11th-ranked netherworld race would sooner or later meet. He would be besieged, and now there were people targeting Ziluan and the others. "You're courting death?" After Chu Feng inquired about the situation, he learned that the people fighting over the fortune of the cave residents had been inside for a long time. Most of them hadn't come out yet, so he was no longer anxious. He thought about it and decided to block the way outside. If those people wanted to come out, he would go through them one by one. He himself wouldn't be looking for a new era or adventure. Chapter 518. Ziluan's little face was pale and her body was covered in bloodstains. Her wounds were still dripping blood, and her injuries were indeed very serious. She was extremely resentful and still had some lingering fear. She was astonished after hearing Chu Feng's words. Collecting protection fees? This way of speaking was truly unconventional and fresh. It wasn't that she hadn't heard of it before, but only ruffians in the marketplace would do such a thing. She had never heard of such a person among evolvers. Her expression was odd at first, but then she couldn't help but laugh. Her beautiful big eyes were suffused with luster, and she was full of hope and incomparable anticipation. Yes, didn't that group of people unite to isolate us and try to kill us? It's great to target them like this. Her gloomy and frightened mood was completely swept away. Her snow-white cheeks revealed a look of excitement because she really wanted to see that scene. Chu Feng patted her on the shoulder and said, "You're really useless. You're actually fleeing like a frightened rabbit after being killed. This is too embarrassing. Stand to one side first and wait for me to identify them in a while. Show me which ones are the most excessive. I haven't sold divine sons and hunted saintesses in a while. I'll catch some later." Ziluan's shoulder was touched, and she felt uncomfortable all over. She quickly retreated with a blushing face and mumbled, "There are so many of them. How can we be their match if they gang up on us?" At the same time, she heard that Chu Feng was going to catch divine sons and sell saintesses again. Her emotions were truly complicated, but this time, it wasn't her. In the end, she was actually a little excited. She wanted to see the expressions of those who complained that they shouldn't be in cahoots with Chu Feng. She wanted to see how they would feel when they experienced it themselves. "Where are Yuan Mo, Zhan He, and Li Feng?" Chu Feng asked her. "Yuan Mo is very fierce and wild. A group of people couldn't stop him, so he directly killed his way into the underwater cave residence to fight for fortunes," Ziluan informed him. As for Zhan He and Li Feng, they turned and ran after seeing the situation wasn't right. They didn't know what was going on. After hearing this, Chu Feng seriously suspected that the two of them had escaped again. Not only were they escaping from the encirclement of the evolvers here, but they were also escaping from him. They had long since become habitual offenders. "If these two don't come back, I'll sell one of them to a barbarian tribe at the edge of the universe and keep the other to warm my bed." Hearing his vicious words, Ziluan hurriedly shut her small bright red mouth. She did not express her opinion, lest she invite trouble upon herself. Chu Feng had already observed the terrain. The cave under the sea was very vast, and there was only one exit. Multicolored light gushed out, and the interior was very big. It was like a city with a vast territory, and there was no water flowing in. He was still a little worried, so he captured a few evolvers and asked the nearby sea beasts to confirm that there were no other exit. "That's a lot easier." Chu Feng revealed a smile and dived into the sea. He set up a domain at the cave residence's exit and buried a large pile of magnetic stones. Finally, he stuck the reverse 5 elements flag that he had collected not long ago into the seabed. Of course, he didn't keep the dragon locking pillars either. Chu Feng did not seal off the area. He left an obvious exit for those people to line up and come out. That was because the cave residence's exit was too big before. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to stop those people if they were to rush out like a swarm of bees and flee in all directions. Now there was only one small path. One man can hold the pass against 10,000. A few people rushed into the cave residence immediately after seeing him appear. They had most likely gone to report. Chu Feng did not stop them and followed them in. It was good that they were willing to report so that the people inside would be apprehensive and prevent them from joining forces to deal a fatal blow to Yuan Mo. Chu Feng's appearance here was a type of deterrence in itself. The pure land within the cave residence was splendid. There were many sparkling and translucent coral castles. Some of them were as big as cities, while others were as small as pillboxes. Many people were fighting over fortunes. That was because there were many good things in the ruins. Some of the coral-enclosed medicinal fields were still growing even though they had been abandoned for many years. Golden snake fruit. Heavens, this is the snake race's favorite. It can purify their bloodline. There are actually 6 trees full of golden snakes with a fruity aroma. Even those who weren't from the snake race were fighting over it. That was because they could sell it after seizing it. There was no lack of buyers in the starry skies for the golden snake fruit. Even evolvers from other races could strengthen their constitution after eating it. It was just that the effects weren't as obvious as the snake races. Zhou Xing, you've gone too far. I was the one who discovered and excavated this stone tablet. You actually ambushed me and stole it. It belongs to the fated. It's mine now. Don't take advantage of your power to bully others. Men, there's a stone tablet here with a fist art recorded on it. It's an extremely ancient fist art. Such a loud shout immediately caused a group of people to rush over, causing the sounds of battle to shake the skies. There were coral castles, immortal mountains, and even jade palaces in the cave residence. However, they were all abandoned and had long since collapsed. There were still remnants of terrifying domains in certain areas. Some evolvers who accidentally entered were instantly strangled to death and turned into bloody mist. Ah, heavenly flame elixir. This is a top-grade material for tempering one's flesh and cultivating secret arts. Heavens, there's actually a pond here. Brother Zhang, come over quickly. Let's take it while there's no one around. The pond was scarlet red and emitting blazing energy. It was gushing with dazzling scarlet radiance like lava. Not good, the people from that side are coming over. This thing can only be stored in a vessel made of 9 nether black jade. We don't have it on us. A group of evolvers rushed over and saw the glowing pond. Their eyes immediately turned red. Heavens, a pond of heavenly flame elixir. Only after accumulating for over 1,000 years can there be so much of it. It's useful even for golden arhats. There's actually so much good stuff. Doubtlessly, a fierce battle had broken out here. Someone had used a spiritual weapon to kill 2 people in an instant. Heads tumbled down and bloody mists lingered in the air. There were also people who punched and blew up the people around them. The group went crazy after seeing the astonishing value of the heavenly flame elixir. They attacked each other and fought over the fortunes. Someone cleared out another area of ruins and immediately found a Tao platform. This was the place where the scriptures were being preached. Heavenly halberd 9 forms. Cries of surprise rang out when they found a famous battle skill in the cosmos. This was a top-grade battle skill. If one wanted to buy it in the starry skies, it would cost in the tens of billions, and this was because it was widely circulated and not an exclusive secret art. But it was indeed extraordinary. Back in the day, many infamous entities had grasped it and trained it to perfection, allowing them to sweep through all their enemies. There was no lack of sacred beasts and divine birds among its practitioners. For instance, the vermilion bird ancestor had once swept through half the cosmos with a halberd in the most ancient era. Its ferocity was matchless. Some orthodoxies had such a secret art, so their divine children weren't interested. But there were even more orthodoxies that didn't have it. Now that they had seen it, they naturally fought over it. Li Feng, you still dare to enter the cave residence? You're really courting death. Someone discovered Li Feng, who had the body of a cosmic supermodel. She was extremely tall and had undulating curve. Li Feng held a large halberd in her hand. This was her weapon. After hearing that the heavenly halberd 9 forms had appeared, she naturally rushed over to observe it. Someone who walks with that demon also dares to come here. Haha, how about we capture her and give her to the young god? Oh, I think you guys don't need to do anything. I'll just directly capture her. Our orthodoxy has a feud with the gentle wind planet. I want this woman. Some people wanted to surround and attack Li Feng after seeing her. Chi, rays of light shot out in this area. Some attacked Li Feng, while others fought each other to seize the battle skill. It was a scene of chaos. Li Feng hesitated for a bit before turning around and leaving. But some people directly chased after her. Their orthodoxy had the heavenly halberd 9 forms, so there was no need to risk their lives here. Do you guys still have any shame? I was captured by that demon Chu Feng. It wasn't my wish, but now you guys are in a hurry to capture me to curry favor with the young god. It's really despicable. Saintess Li Feng, don't misunderstand. I'm here to save you from the sea of suffering and get rid of that demon. Haha, don't run. Bang, bang, bang. Li Feng's body was stained with blood as she was targeted by some people. It didn't take long before Li Feng's injuries weren't light. There was an arrow in her back that pierced through her left chest, bringing with it a lot of blood. The situation isn't good. The young god didn't come, but that demon Chu Feng appeared first. He's lingering outside the cave and will come in at any time. Someone shouted. That was because a few people had just rushed in to report this news. Those who were chasing after Li Feng had gloomy expressions. They were somewhat unwilling, but in the end, they gave up decisively and retreated. Kill. In the depths of the cave, the battle cries were the most intense. Many people were participating in the battle to seize the natural luck here. A purple plant was growing in the Pure Land. There was a purple gourd growing on it, and it was suffused with auspicious purple energy. This area looked extremely divine. Nearby, there were broken limbs everywhere. Many people had died, and their corpses lay in front of the gourd. On the vine frame, the purple gourd was suffused with mist. There were specks of light all over its body, as if it was shining brightly like stars. It was extremely mystical. It's actually the myriad star gourd. This is an extremely rare treasure that even great figures value. It's actually growing here. There was an intense battle in this area, and no one retreated. The strongest belonged to Fu Huang, Yuan Mo, Su Jing, and the others. However, Yuan Mo was the most passive. His body was covered in blood as he fought against Fu Huang and Su Jing. His entire body was covered in sword wounds that were so deep that bones could be seen. Beside him, there were others taking action. Yuan Mo, you're in cahoots with that native. You're courting death. How dare you come here to fight for the natural luck? Everyone, let's join forces and eliminate him. Someone suggested, fanning the flames. In reality, Yuan Mo had been besieged from the moment he stepped into this cave. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suffered such heavy injuries. The myriad star gourd's value was too high. No one was willing to give it up, and they were all fighting. Outside the cave, on the surface of the sea, Chu Feng had waited for a long time and was getting impatient. He sat on the boat, drinking wine and staring at the bottom of the sea. Meanwhile, Zi Luan poured wine for him unwillingly and nervously. At the same time, she was also nervously watching the situation under the sea with excitement and expectation. Bang! Finally, the waves surged into the sky and the commotion under the sea became bigger. Someone rushed out of the cave with a bloody light and fierce killing intent, laughing loudly. Hee, the harvest this time isn't small. I'm leaving first. That person laughed heartily. Zi Luan went up and shouted, Stop! Oh, isn't this Saintess Zi Luan? Your brother is indeed extraordinary, but you're a pampered girl. You can't bear to suffer and your strength isn't that great. You dare to stop me? Haha, why don't you come with me? You escaped a day ago. Now, come with me to explore the true meaning of life. I'll teach you supreme techniques. This red-haired man laughed loudly and teased Zilwan in a very ostentatious manner. However, soon after, his smile froze because he saw Chu Feng stand up from a large boat and walk over, arriving in front of him. It's a misunderstanding. His expression changed as he explained. Chu Feng smiled faintly and grabbed forward. It really is a misunderstanding. Chu Feng, what are you trying to do? I'm robbing you, Chu Feng said generously. Then, he nodded and said, I'll also rob you while I'm at it. This person almost spat out blood and continuously backed up. He could understand being robbed, but why did he have to take him in? It wasn't like he was a city-toppling beauty. What are you taking me in for? Sell. Chu Feng's words were rather concise. You're going too far. Bang. In the end, this person was smacked down by Chu Feng and coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. Zilwan immediately rushed over and began to plunder. Ah, we're rich. There's heavenly flame elixir. Its value is astonishing. Even a golden arhut needs this kind of thing. Zilwan cried out in surprise with a brilliant smile. The next moment, a woman with an enchanting figure rushed out of the cave residence. Her long skirt was in tatters, revealing a large area of her snow-white skin. After seeing Chu Feng, she was first startled, and then her large eyes became watery as she said, Brother Chu Feng, you've also come. She smiled sweetly and was rather charming. Chapter 519. The charming woman in the tattered dress, revealing a large portion of her snow-white skin, was startled upon hearing this. She hurriedly tried to remedy the situation and said, Sister Zilwan, you've wronged me. At that time, I saw you surrounded and wanted to help you. Think carefully, did I attack you at that time? Zilwan glared at her and said, You criticized me from head to toe and even clicked your tongue. You were examining and ridiculing me, and you even mocked Chu Feng as a demon. The enchanting woman was about to ruin things upon hearing this. Sister Zilwan, we can't complain. I was only praising your good figure and saying that Brother Chu has good taste. Don't avoid the important and dwell on the trivial. You urged others to capture me and said that you could give me to the deity race's young god. When the time comes, you'll make Chu Feng lose face, said Zilwan. After hearing this, Chu Feng didn't continue listening. He immediately took action and used the deity race's flowing light fist. It was simply too fast. Even though the woman's reaction was fast, she was still no match. Bang! The woman was shaken to the point where blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. She staggered backward and was then sent flying by Chu Feng, losing the ability to fight. Chi. Chu Feng raised his hand and dozens of profound magnetic needles entered her body. Just like the red-haired man before, she was sealed. Brother Chu, don't listen to her nonsense. This little girl is complaining. I only touched her once. I really didn't have any intention of targeting Brother Chu. This woman was anxious. She had an empty charm, but now she couldn't display it. Her whole body was stiff and fixed in place. Is that so? Chu Feng looked at Zilwan suspiciously. This proud woman couldn't really be taking advantage of this opportunity to take revenge on him, could she? In principle, he would show mercy to divine sons and saintesses who had no enmity toward him. He would only take a toll and wouldn't go so far as to rob and demand protection fees. Zilwan said angrily, This woman is too flirtatious and bad. She really did mock you. She said that you haven't sold me yet because, in any case, she deserves a beating for polluting people's ears. Chu Feng laughed mischievously and immediately understood. I'll detain them first. I haven't sold any divine sons or auctioned any saintesses recently, so I'm short of supplies. I should be able to hunt some today. When they heard Chu Feng's words, both the charming woman and the red-haired youth who had been captured earlier paled. No matter how brave they were, they would still be afraid. If he was really sold out by Chu Feng, that scene was really unimaginable. "Brother Chu Feng, please be merciful." She said she was Luo Miaoxiang, the older cousin of the damning Pure Land's fairy Qin Luoying. When he heard these words, Chu Feng didn't feel anything. How could he know what kind of background the damning Pure Land had? But Zi Luan's little face was full of shock and nervousness. "Damning Pure Land is very powerful? Is Qin Luoying very strong?" Chu Feng asked. "Damning Pure Land is especially terrifying. The planets ruled by this orthodoxy are among the top 20 in the cosmos and have never fallen," Zi Luan informed him in a low voice. She was somewhat nervous because this was definitely the most top-notch evolutionary sect in the cosmos, with a forbidden expert at the Heaven Illuminator realm overseeing it. Not to mention the top 20, even if they dropped a few dozen places, they would still be considered a colossus in the cosmos and couldn't be shaken. In reality, the top 100 planets couldn't be provoked because they had Heaven Illuminators overseeing them. At this level, the ranking was related to each individual's accumulation and resources. Qin Luoying is the saintess of the damning Pure Land. At the same time, she is extremely famous in the cosmos. Her damning breathing technique has reached perfection and can charge into people's dreams. She surpasses many of her sect's predecessors and can kill people invisibly. At the same time, she is also one of the most beautiful women in the starry skies and is listed in the 10 Beauties paintings. Zi Luan secretly transmitted her voice. She was really a bit afraid of provoking the damning Pure Land. That was simply endless trouble. This race entered the Tao through dreams and was impossible to guard against. However, Chu Feng wasn't afraid. He had already chopped up the guests from the deity race from the 10 Greats and even sold their flesh. Why would he be afraid of the vague threat of this woman called Luo Miaoxiang? It couldn't be better since your cousin is Qin Luoying. She's so famous, so her net worth must be astonishingly high. Later, contact the damning Pure Land. They definitely don't want you to wander about outside. Luo Miaoxiang immediately felt a headache after hearing this. She had been kidnapped. Chu Feng was clearly trying to extort Qin Luoying, and she couldn't suppress this demon at all. "She's only my distant cousin. We've never met before. She might not believe you if you contact her." Luo Miaoxiang braced herself and said. "No matter." Chu Feng waved his hand and decided to keep her. He looked at her with a smile and felt that he had caught a good fish. At the same time, he let Zi Luan search her body. In the end, she found a jet-black jade jar on her body filled with heavenly flame elixir. It seems there's a lot of heavenly flame elixir in the cave residence. Chu Feng nodded. The people who rushed out were all intercepted by him. The fortunes they seized were all heavenly flame elixir, and they immediately fled after dividing it up. That was because these things were enough. Even a golden arhat could use them, so there was no need to say more about their value. The red-haired man, Luo Miaoxiang, and the others looked at each other speechlessly. They divided the heavenly flame elixir inside, but in the end, they gathered outside and turned it in together. These people's expressions were unsightly and their hearts were excessively gloomy. Before long, a man rushed out. His black hair was disheveled, and there were bloodstains on his body. His battle clothes were badly damaged, and it was obvious that he had experienced a great battle. His eyes were especially sharp, and his pupils constricted as soon as he saw Chu Feng. He wanted to take liberties with me, saying he wanted to capture me, but Yuan Mo stopped him. Then I successfully escaped. He had once besieged Yuan Mo with others. Zi Luan immediately cried out after seeing this person. Zhou Xing. Chu Feng recognized this person. He had seen him on the Peach Blossom Island filled with fallen petals. He had heard people say that he had a famous younger brother named Zhou Hai. He had recently figured out the black vortex energy form and directly killed his way into the top 200 of the Dark Horse rankings. It was said that his ranking would rise even further. Recently, Chu Feng's crude stone ball energy form and Zhou Hai's black vortex energy form were the most famous. They had appeared at almost the same time and instantly rushed onto the rankings. Chu Feng, we'll mind our own business. Zhou Xing's eyes flickered and he was apprehensive. You took liberties with my maid Ziluan when I wasn't around and attacked my subordinates, Yuan Mo. You even said something about mind our own business. Needless to say, you must have friendly relations with the deity race and the Shilin clan. You want to make me your enemy. There's no such thing, Zhou Xing denied flatly. Regardless, let me rob you first. If you want to pass by, you'll have to pay a protection fee first. Chu Feng said. On what basis? Zhou Xing's eyes were frightening, but he was somewhat flustered and incomparably unwilling. This time, he had returned with a bountiful harvest. He had eaten twice by himself, so how could he be robbed now? Just because you attack the people around me, I'll have to sell you even if I don't kill you. Chu Feng replied, surging with murderous intent. You dare! Zhou Xing was furious. He was Zhou Hai's elder brother. His younger brother was extremely famous now and wasn't inferior to Chu Feng. He had researched the black vortex energy form and shook the starry skies. Why wouldn't I dare? Chu Feng raised his hand and shot out 50 crude stone ball energy forms. However, he had miscalculated. Zhou Xing hadn't grasped his younger brother's black vortex energy form. With so many stone balls pressing down, he was almost crushed to death. Zhou Xing coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. His body was covered in cracks and almost exploded. The shields and armor around him were in tatters, and a dozen or so weapons were also shattered. Fortunately, he managed to preserve his life. Afterward, he was suppressed by Chu Feng and his energy was completely sealed. He couldn't move at all. Wow, so many golden snake fruits! Ziluan cried out in surprise. She was in charge of plundering and immediately found nearly 50 golden snake fruits in Zhou Xing's spatial bracelet. It's the snake race's favorite, and its value is astonishing. One fruit is worth about 100 million cosmic dollars. 5 billion cosmic dollars? Chu Feng was astonished. It was just one Zhou Xing, yet the fruits he picked were worth so many cosmic dollars? It was too shocking. This is nothing. The heavenly flame elixir is even more expensive than the golden snake fruits. Ziluan curled her lips. Haha, so it's not just ordinary wealth, but a sudden one. Chu Feng laughed. There's also a stone tablet with a fist art recorded on it. Ziluan found a stone tablet in Zhou Xing's spatial bracelet with a wondrous technique recorded on it. You guys, this is mine. Zhou Xing's eyes were red. He could forget about the golden snake fruits, but this stone tablet was something he had spent a great deal of effort to bring out. He had fought bloody battles and snatched it from others. Now it's mine. Yes, even you are mine. I'll keep you and sell you, Chu Feng said. Zhou Xing's lungs were about to explode after hearing this. The fortune he had fought so hard for had been snatched away. Even he himself was about to lose his freedom and be sold? How preposterous! Eastern Amethyst Chi Fist. Yes, it looks like a very ancient and powerful fist manual. Interesting, very exquisite. Good. Chu Feng stared at the stone tablet. The more he looked, the more delighted he became. In the end, he was moved. He felt that the fist art recorded on the stone tablet was exceptionally grand and not simple at all. Ah, it's the Eastern Amethyst Chi Fist. This is one of the top secret arts. It's said that this is the ultimate combat technique of the Eastern Amethyst Chi Finger. Ziluan cried out in surprise. Without a doubt, this was one of the most powerful fist arts on Earth. Chu Feng had seen the Shilin clan use the Eastern Amethyst Chi Finger. Who would have thought that there was an even more powerful Eastern amethyst chi fist at the end of that finger art? Good, this is wonderful. Zhou Xing, you're not bad. Chu Feng praised. Zhou Xing immediately coughed up blood after hearing these words. It wasn't easy for him to snatch the fist manual without alarming too many people, but in the end it was all for naught. Naturally, he had heard of this kind of fist art. It was priceless and an extremely powerful combat technique. Chu Feng was quite satisfied and put away the stone tablet. Then, he became more and more active. Here, he was collecting protection fees. The divine sons and saintesses who had entered the cave residence came out one after another with some gains. In the end, it was all a tragedy. Stop. Chu Feng. What are you doing? I'm collecting protection fees. Why? Bang! Ouch! Chu Feng's face was flushed as he robbed over 20 divine sons and saintesses, making them pay protection fees. Among them, some were even told that their entire being belonged to Chu Feng. They had been deprived of their freedom and had become his prey. They would be sold. Stop, pay the toll. Sometimes, Chu Feng spoke more elegantly. He didn't mention the word robbery, but the nature was the same. The group of divine sons and saintesses were going crazy. They had expended a lot of effort, blood, and sweat as they rushed out of the underwater cave residence. In the end, they were robbed on the way. In the starry skies on the Origin Beast platform, everyone was shaken. This was too crazy. Damn, this demon is deranged. How can he be so rude? Our race's divine sons risked their lives to bring out some divine object. How can he rob them just like that? You should be content. Didn't you see those races with good relations with the Shilin clan? Their divine sons and saintesses have all been detained. That demon has already announced that those people belong to him. In the starry skies, the evolvers of every race were flabbergasted. Earth, Eastern Sea. Stop, pay the protection fees. All the evolvers who came out of the underwater cave residence, regardless of their status, were being robbed. In the starry skies, many people were speechless. Their eyes were wide open. In the past, he sold divine sons, hunted saintesses, and sold deity meat. Now, he's engaged in robbery and even collecting protection fees. This fellow is simply a tyrant, a bandit, a mafia leader. He's really rotten to the core. He's a top scoundrel, a big hoodlum. Chapter 520. Yes, he's too immoral. This is the style of the marketplace. How can this person be worthy of being an evolver? How shameful! Some people agreed with the famous guest's words, following which, not only in private but also in public, famous people began to criticize Chu Feng, saying that he was a scoundrel and a hoodlum who dared to do anything. For instance, someone was currently roaring in front of everyone on the Origin Beast platform. Anyone who logged in would be able to see his live broadcast news. What a tyrant! He's simply out of control. He's just a native, yet he dares to act so unscrupulously and rob the inheritors of important orthodoxies in the starry skies. Truly unruly people from barren mountains and unruly rivers. This bandit chief. Everyone was astonished after seeing this. It was actually a special guest invited by the Origin Beast platform. He was a famous elder, Grandpa Luo. Everyone was astonished. Grandpa Luo had always been good-tempered, but he was actually quite slippery. He would never touch on sensitive topics and would always play it safe. This old man was almost mocked as a nice guy. As a long-term special guest, he had never stepped out of line and always wore a gentle smile. But what was wrong with him today? Now, he was filled with righteous indignation as he berated Chu Feng. He was absolutely righteous. In truth, Grandpa Luo was about to vomit blood because he had seen his granddaughter among Chu Feng's captive. How could he not be angry? Grandpa Luo has a strong character. Normally, He disdains criticizing the current situation because those things don't carry enough weight. Now, he's speaking up for justice and berating Chu Feng. He really has a good temper, integrity, and righteousness. Someone sighed and praised him. Yes, Grandpa Luo is full of righteousness. While others were watching the show, he spoke righteously and pointed at that demon in the starry skies. He's truly righteous. People lamented that they had misunderstood him in the past. Grandpa Luo was actually a true man. He wouldn't be vague when it was time to speak up. Didn't you see? The old man's hair was standing on end and his eyes were spitting fire. He was about to turn the tables on Chu Feng. If it wasn't for the sea of stars separating them, he would have killed his way over. Forget it. Do you really think that Mr. Nice Guy, who only knows how to smooth things over and never offend anyone, has regained his pride? Do you know the reason? His granddaughter, Luo Miaoxiang, was kidnapped in the East Sea of Earth. Not only did Chu Feng collect protection fees and confiscate all her fortunes, but he also kidnapped her and made her a prisoner. She might even be sold. Someone revealed the truth, revealing the reason why the good-tempered old master Luo acted out of character today, and suddenly flared up. There's actually an inside story. I knew it, this old fellow is the most slippery one. No matter what time it is, he's always smiling and rarely speaks fiercely. Today, he was so angry. I thought he had been possessed and changed into a different person. So there's actually such an internal reason. Old Master Luo was enraged. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. His angry voice echoed throughout the platform. I feel that this kind of villain is simply insane. We must get rid of him. We can't just sit back and do nothing. Everyone, are you willing to help us subdue this demon? The commentator was also speechless. Usually, when this old man talked about sensitive topics, he would always laugh and joke around. He was a wily old fox, but what had he become today? When it came to his granddaughter, he was simply a radical, violent, and hot-blooded righteous youth. Elder Luo, calm down, the commentator advised. Although he sympathized with the old man, he couldn't let the old man's personal emotions infect the entire platform. Beside him, another special guest was an old rival of old Master Luo. Seeing the old man lose his composure, he smiled indifferently and said calmly, "Old Luo, you must restrain yourself. This is the Origin Beast platform and we're guests. When commenting on such matters, you must look down on them with a detached attitude. You must not be happy about material gains or sad about personal losses. You must be objective and detached. It's not good to bring in your own strong emotions." Old Master Luo was furious. "Chi, restrain my ass. This native is so savage that he's about to pierce through the sky. Don't tell me we shouldn't be objective and offer advice? We should surround and hunt him down to prevent the divine sons and saintesses from falling into his hands. We're saving an entire generation." Old Master Chi replied with equal harshness, "Old Luo, you're too selfish. Do you really think we don't know that your granddaughter has been captured? Why aren't you jumping about normally? You were very calm when he was selling deity meat. Why are you so anxious now? Old Chi, please say a few words." "Calm down, old Luo." The commentator had a headache and was trying to mediate. It was outrageous that the invited guests were fighting and undermining each other. "Chi, you're too disgusting. How can you say such things? Old Luo, you lack a calm and detached attitude when facing such matters. You should have the heart of the heaven and earth are heartless and treat all living things as dogs." "Chi, it's easy for you to say that. Let's go back and fight." Old Master Luo flipped out. Everyone's horizons had been broadened. All of them felt that the two old men were about to fight. All of a sudden, Elder Chi's expression changed as he stared at the image transmitted from the eastern sea. His eyes widened, his body trembled, and his old face turned pale. Then, he said angrily, "That native is too audacious. Damn it, we shouldn't have indulged him. I completely agree with old Luo's words. This tyrant, gangster, and bandit should be surrounded and suppressed. Everyone was baffled. Why did this old man's attitude change so quickly? He was actually standing on old Luo's side. Very soon, everyone knew what was going on. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chu Feng had caught a young man with a feminine air. He felt that something was wrong and used his fiery eyes to take a look. Turned out to be a girl, a very beautiful one at that. Without saying anything further, he grabbed the girl with his large hand. The girl immediately screamed and was forced to reveal her true form. On the Origin Beast platform, Elder Chi's heart was aching and his lips were trembling. Wasn't this his granddaughter? She said she had gone out to gain experience and had disappeared for a period of time. She actually went on the Star Passage without telling her family and ran to the desolate Earth. He wouldn't have known if Chu Feng hadn't forced her to reveal her true form. This bandit, Tu Fei, and scoundrel should be suppressed. How can he be so deranged? He should be executed. We must surround and suppress him. Elder Chi shouted. Now, he was seething with anger and spoke righteously. He was even more radical than old Master Luo. His eyes were spewing flames and his nose was emitting white smoke. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Everyone was speechless. This change of stance was too fast. Earth, Eastern Sea. The blue waves were undulating and the sky was clear. However, in the hearts of the divine sons and saintesses, there were rolling dark clouds, lightning flashing, thunder rolling, and torrential rain pouring down. They were too damned unlucky. This was what many people were thinking. They had just stepped out of the cave residence when they were ambushed and robbed clean. That native's ferocity left them speechless. He blocked the entrance and didn't let a single one go. He wanted to go through everyone. They had never seen such a deranged bandit and hoodlum. If this was in the outer realms, this person would have been beaten to death by their Tao protectors. But here, the mountains were high and the emperor was far away. The foundations and experts of the various holy lands couldn't enter. The group of proud sons and daughters were beaten until they saw stars and became prisoners. They had never seen such a large-scale robbery of divine sons and saintesses. If this was in the starry skies, it would be a major incident if a divine son or princess was kidnapped. It would incur the wrath of an orthodoxy and send troops to encircle and suppress them. What had happened now? It wasn't just one or two people, but a large group of divine sons and saintesses. That's right, they weren't counting by the number of people. Now it was a group. Someone did a rough count and found that there were 4 groups of captives with each group having 11 or 12 people. Within such a short period, over 40 people had been suppressed. All of them were geniuses with significant backgrounds. Now, this group of divine sons and saintesses, apart from feeling awkward and ashamed when they first met, had gotten used to it and were increasingly calm. For instance, they would occasionally converse with each other, and those who had been captured earlier would calmly greet the latecomers. Divine Son Yang Lin, you've come? Greetings, Saintess Chu. You've also come. The latecomers were speechless. What was this? Was there such a greeting? It was too awkward. It wasn't that the group hadn't thought of resisting, but they really weren't his match. They were all at the carefree realm and had severed their cultivation to get here. Who would have thought that a freak like Demon King Chu would appear? Had they known he was so fierce, they wouldn't have come earlier even if they were beaten to death. Even if they had secret arts, they would still have to wait for a period of time to recover their strength. Not every divine son and saintess had obtained fortunes in the cave residence. Many of them had come out empty-handed, and this immediately caused Chu Feng to be dissatisfied. After Zi Luan's identification, those who had attacked her and Yuan Mo and had come out empty-handed had all been chased back in. This scene caused everyone on the Origin Beast platform to be dumbfounded. This wasn't just an ordinary kind of ferocity. This was completely illogical. When others discovered the ruins, who wouldn't fight to be the first and risk their lives for the fortunes and fortunes? They were afraid of falling behind and would frequently engage in bloody battles with their lives at stake. This demon was truly straightforward and incomparably shameless. He was brazenly waiting outside to collect protection fees and rob everyone. If this were in the outside world, it would have been a group attack. Every orthodoxy would dispatch troops to wipe him out and slaughter him completely. But on Earth, Chu Feng was currently in a minor invincible state. Experts couldn't descend for a while, and this made the people of the outer realms toothache. They couldn't do anything to him. I'm so angry. How preposterous. He even dares to rob my granddaughter and hunt her. Moreover, he even wants to sell her. I really want to kill him. I want to slaughter his entire family in the starry skies. An old demon roared in anger. Today was truly depressing. A stately demonic powerhouse had been so infuriated by a little demon. Especially at this time, his granddaughter was throwing flirtatious glances at Chu Feng. This caused his expression to become increasingly unfriendly. This was a demoness called Zhao Qing. She had long blue hair and a face as beautiful as the moon. She possessed great charm and was comparable to Luo Miaoxiang, who had been captured earlier. Her skin was snow-white, and at this moment her sexy red lips were slightly parted. Her pair of large eyes were full of life as she said with a smile, "Brother Chu Feng, I'm just a weak woman with no harvests at all. How can you be so cruel as to drive me back to the cave residence? Let me help you massage your shoulders, okay?" Chu Feng heard this and immediately nodded happily. "All right, we'll talk about higher-level ideals tonight. As for now, you go back to the cave residence and seize some fortunes before coming out." With a slap, he unceremoniously slapped the demoness Zhao Qing's buttocks, causing the astonishingly elastic area to tremble. "Humph!" Zhao Qing snorted coldly. This demon king was too hateful. It was useless no matter how she acted coquettishly. He was simply too hard-hearted. She twisted her slender waist and walked back to the cave residence again because she could see that this scoundrel wasn't just talking. She didn't dare to go against him. She cursed that this demon king should be single for 10,000 years and not see a single woman. "Serves you right for mocking me not long ago." Ziluan gloated. Zhao Qing turned around and smiled sweetly. Her red lips became even more vibrant and sexy, and her eyes were charming. She said, "Little sister, you're telling on me, aren't you? I'll go find Brother Chu at night to talk about life ideals. I'll definitely advise him to sell you again." "Ah, you dare." Ziluan immediately became nervous. Her little face turned pale as she felt that the great demoness threat was too strong. In the starry sky, the underworld giant, the old demon king, was spewing black smoke from his nose. His expression was extremely unsightly. As a senior elder of the demonic path, how could he tolerate the little demon king's impudence? He gritted his teeth and said, "Little demon, you dare to bully my granddaughter? Wait until you step into the starry sky. As a senior, I'll let you understand what a true demon king is. Just wait and see." On this day, the starry sky was very lively, but some old fellows were very unhappy. When some old monsters from holy lands and pure lands contacted each other, their greetings were quite unconventional. "Old Zhang, has your granddaughter been charged a protection fee? I want to beat that brat to death." Not only was she charged a protection fee, even her people were confiscated. "I'm worried to death. What should I do?" "Be content. Old Zhou is the one who's angry. His great-great-grandson and great-great-granddaughter all went over, but in the end they were all captured by that little bastard. Not a single one escaped. Old Zhou is sharpening his blade. Demon King Zhao is the one who's worried. His granddaughter Zhao Qing seems to be quite interested in that little native and wants to find him at night to talk about life. Demon King Zhao was so angry that he accidentally pinched 2 golden Arhat-level flying snakes to death. Those were pets he was planning to raise into a flood dragon. Now he's restless and said that he must chop Chu Feng to death. This was a small circle of top-notch old monsters. Their conversations weren't leaked to the outside world. Otherwise, people would certainly be dumbfounded and cause a huge uproar. That was because the behavior of this group of enlightened experts was different from what people usually saw. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chu Feng asked a group of captives, "Where's Lan Shi from the Heavenly Music Pure Land? I was just about to collect a protection fee from this universe's new star. Has she arrived yet? Why hasn't she come out yet?" Chapter 521. There were many splendid civilizations in the vast cosmos. However, life was insignificant in comparison to the vast dark cosmos. Vital planets were scattered throughout the cold cosmos like a few grains in the vast ocean. At this moment the 8 Pegasi were flawless. Their hair was long, and some were like golden flames, some were sparkling purple, and some were glowing silver. They didn't have a single strand of mixed hair, and their bodies were covered in dragon scales. The dragon-scaled Pegasus was a top-grade mount in the cosmos. It could truly gallop through the starry skies and cross different galaxies. Normally, it was already extraordinary to see one, but today 8 of them had appeared. They were pulling a carriage and traveling through the outer space. Obviously, a person that possessed such a mount was at least a figure at the quasi-saint rank or above. The 8 dragon-scaled Pegasi could cross the starry skies, but they didn't necessarily have to cross the boundless dark space. Instead, they were traveling through some ancient wormhole path. On the way to Earth, the 8 dragon-scaled Pegasi were about to pull the carriage into the distance when they suddenly stopped in front of a wormhole. They then turned around and approached Earth. This planet was once ranked 11th, and it was once brilliant. Leave a golden invitation here. Recently, a Heaven's Chosen appeared here, and the energy body he created is ranked in the top 200 of the Dark Horse list. He should have the qualifications. A voice rang out from within the carriage. Then, a beam of golden light flew out and entered Earth, heading straight toward the Eastern Sea. A shooting star. Many people in the Eastern Sea cried out in alarm. Chu Feng raised his head. Then, he felt that something was amiss. He opened his fiery eyes and saw that the dazzling meteor rushing towards the sea was a piece of paper that was heading towards him. Bang! In the end, he caught it and revealed a puzzled expression. He used the photon computer to scan the universal language on it and discerned its meaning. This was an invitation made of astonishing material. A golden invitation from the damning Pure Land. Beside him, Ziluan cried out in alarm. The damning Pure Land whose planets are ranked within the top 20 in the cosmos? Chu Feng was bewildered. Then, he saw a group of captives. Even those divine sons who had been suppressed by him were now staring at him with envious gazes. It was an invitation made of special material. It was completely golden and sturdy. It had a great origin. They actually invited him. At this moment, many people on the Origin Beast platform were astonished and cried out in alarm. Earth, East China Sea. Under Chu Feng's questioning, Ziluan revealed the truth. Every once in a while, the damning Pure Land would send out golden invitations. The number of invitations was limited, and the targets they chose were the most outstanding characters of the universe's younger generation. At the very least, there were only 100 of them. This meant that only the strongest descendants from the top 100 planets had the right to do so. Most of the time, there wouldn't be more than 500 golden invitations. They were extremely rare. Chu Feng was suspicious. Why did damning Pure Land invite a young genius like this? There's an ancient palace in damning Pure Land that's suffused with immortal qi. It's called 1000 Autumns, and there's an opportunity there. I don't know why it's only effective for people under 30 years old. The Thousand Autumns Divine Palace was quite special. Many heaven-warping figures gathered there, and they could enter a dreamland together. Great natural luck would appear there. Some people woke up from a dream. The time spent cultivating in the dream was incomparably real, able to increase many years of cultivation. It was said that some people could dream for 10 years, while others could comprehend for 100 years in their dreams. This was simply an evolutionary shortcut. One could obtain 10 or even 100 years of cultivation in one night. It was simply unimaginable and shocking. But no matter how many people went, only 2 or 3 people would obtain this special opportunity. What a great place! Chu Feng sighed in admiration. He was incomparably happy as he held the golden invitation in his hand. He naturally wouldn't let go of the opportunity to enter. His cultivation would rise sharply in one night, as if he had reached the heavens in a single step and experienced a legend. At the same time, this was also a way for the damning Pure Land's strongest descendant to choose a Tao companion. The chosen one could become the Tao companion of the damning Pure Land's saintess. Many people on the Origin Beast platform were envious of Chu Feng and were discussing spiritedly. The strongest heavenly geniuses won't refuse even the top 10. They're willing to set foot in damning Pure Land. If they can comprehend for 100 years in one night, they'll be able to look down on their peers. Who can resist the temptation? What's the name of the damning Pure Land saintess? I think it's Qin Luoyin? Chu Feng asked Zi Luan beside him. Yes, she's extremely famous. She entered the Tao through dreams and her strength is terrifying. She surpasses the predecessors when they were young and can easily kill people in their dreams. It's impossible to guard against her. Zi Luan introduced unwillingly and mumbled softly. This Qin Luoyin's fame was too great. She was one of the most beautiful women under the starry skies and had been ranked in the 9 beauties painting by busybodies. That means I might become the son-in-law of the damning Pure Land and become Tao companions with Qin Luoyin? Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. Dozens of divine sons and saintesses were jealous and unwilling to admit it, but they had no choice but to remain silent. This wasn't impossible. Among those invited, no one could be sure who the final person would be. Comprehending for 100 years in one night might not even appear among the Tao children of the top 10 planets. The damning Pure Land only sends out a golden invitation every few thousand years. That palace hall isn't easy to open, and it only happens once in such a long time. This makes the invitation all the more precious. Geniuses from all over want to obtain one. Someone sighed in the starry skies. There weren't many people invited each time. This also meant that those fortunate enough to hold a golden invitation had a good chance of comprehending for 100 years and even becoming Tao companions with Qin Luoyin. However, before long, a piece of news came out. Qin Luoyin had personally destroyed the golden invitation in Chu Feng's hand and announced his removal. She wouldn't give him this opportunity. This matter exploded on the Origin Beast platform immediately and caused a huge uproar. Chu Feng had a photon computer in his hand and naturally understood what was happening in the starry skies. He was immediately stunned and his expression froze. He saw on the Origin Beast platform that the news was true. Qin Luoyin had refused his visit and personally told him that she had destroyed Chu Feng's golden invitation. She was quite straightforward. Chu Feng's expression was gloomy and somewhat dark. What was going on? This was simply a humiliation. In truth, he was delighted at first because he had been attracted by that one night of comprehending the Tao. But after calming down, he felt that this was a castle in the air. He could only stare at it helplessly and had no way of approaching it. That was because if he really did appear in the damning Pure Land, he reckoned that some old monsters would immediately target him and kill him. As such, he had long since shook his head. He couldn't go there and was prepared to find an opportunity to thank the damning Pure Land for their good intentions and return the invitation. But he had never expected that the Saintess of the Orthodoxy would so decisively reject him as soon as the damning Pure Land sent him the golden invitation. She was fairly merciless and humiliating. Haha, this demon has been rejected. He doesn't even have the chance to see Fairy Qin Luoyin, let alone enter the damning Pure Land. Saintess Qin Luoyin is definitely putting him in order. She first sent him the invitation and then rejected him decisively. She's ruthlessly cutting off his face and trampling on him like this. She has quite the character. Naturally, there was no lack of enemies ridiculing Chu Feng in the starry skies. That was because he had hunted down all kinds of divine sons and saintesses. How could the corresponding evolutionary sex be friendly to him? Now, they were all rejoicing in his misfortune. Chu Feng originally didn't have any thoughts about the damning Pure Land, but now his expression wasn't very good. Moreover, he had a strong urge to step into the starry skies and enter the Thousand Autumns Dream Palace to snatch that one night of comprehending the Tao. Let's see if there's a chance. Chu Feng was secretly furious. Just what method was there to enter the starry skies without anyone knowing and then enter the damning Pure Land undetected? He didn't give up immediately and was actually pondering over it. That girl who likes to daydream, just you wait, Chu Feng said. No one believed that he really dared to enter the starry skies. They all thought that he was speaking ruthlessly in order to save some face, but he definitely wouldn't take action. The truth was that Chu Feng was somewhat longing to enter the starry skies. He finally understood why those from the 10 greats hadn't come and why those strongest Tao children and top-notch geniuses hadn't appeared all this time. It was because there were even more astonishing opportunities in the cosmos. One night of comprehending the Tao for 100 years was like a fantasy story, but it really existed. Just think about it, who would want to miss out on a top-notch genius? Afterwards, he understood in detail and secretly asked Ziluan. He also searched for similar opportunities on the photon computer. I heard that some of the 10 greats Tao children have recently been campaigning in Hell. Yes, Miss Qin Luoyin has also just returned from Hell. There were people discussing on the Origin Beast platform, and it just so happened that Chu Feng was interested in it. He understood what kind of place it was after understanding it. The creatures in Hell were too terrifying. Just the first level alone was a dangerous place. There was a type of black ants that usually moved in groups and could eat golden arhat. However, a certain substance they secreted was a sacred item that could give people great benefits. Hell is too dangerous. Those Tao children from peerless races also have Tao protectors following them. Otherwise, it's very easy for accidents to happen and they might die inside. Chu Feng looked it up on the photon computer and found a few similar places in the depths of the cosmos known as the God's Forbidden Zone. Although it was very dangerous, there were shocking fortunes there. It was reported that the deity race's young god, Ingwudi, and the others had all wandered around these places in search of fortunes. So much so that the Shilin clan's divine son had also embarked on his return journey from this place. He had come under Wei Heng's orders to kill Chu Feng. It was also on this day that Chu Feng's heart was moved. He incomparably longed to enter the starry skies. He wanted to fight for the fortunes on earth, and he also wanted to set foot in those secret lands in the starry skies. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chu Feng stood guard outside the cave residence for a long time. In the end, even Li Feng and Yuan Mo came out, but he didn't see Lan Shi. After interrogating the others, he was convinced that Lan Shi was very astute and vigilant and hadn't come here. Afterwards, Chu Feng began to reap a great harvest. He obtained the heavenly halberd 9 forms, as well as the myriad star gourd seized from Fu Huang and the Su dynasty's Su Jing. The myriad star gourd's uses were too great. Even the powerhouses in the field of evolution loved it dearly because it was a rare and precious divine object. Now, the myriad star gourd hadn't been plucked. Fu Huang and Su Jing had dug it out entirely, and it was still growing on the gourd vine. They were preparing to bring it out of earth and transplant it into the depths of the starry skies. If this gourd matures, even saints will be moved. Ziluan's large eyes lit up. She was incomparably excited as she told Chu Feng. Chapter 522. In order to enter the starry skies, one had to first avoid the surveillance of the outer realm's heavenly eyes. For instance, Chu Feng was being watched. Everyone on the Origin Beast streaming platform knew where he was and what he was doing. There were no secrets to speak of. Chu Feng was extremely dissatisfied with this situation. He had once questioned and targeted the Origin Beast platform. Did evolvers have any privacy to speak of? However, the answer given by the Origin Beast platform was that Earth was a wasteland and its level of evolution wasn't high enough. The outer realms could observe as observers and didn't violate the current starry sky rules. Even if Earth evolved to a certain stage and became a one-star civilization, the outer realms wouldn't be able to monitor it at will. Chu Feng frowned after hearing this. This situation was like modern people searching for savages in the mountains. They were observing rare species, and could be considered a type of scientific exploration. Chu Feng had once been rather silent. After careful thought, the mother planet was a bit sad. It had once illuminated the heavens and was revered by myriad realms. It was ranked 11th in the entire universe. But what had it become now? The edge of the universe was a barbarian habitat in the eyes of many people. There was a gap in the evolutionary civilization. Not to mention a 5-star civilization, it couldn't even reach 1 star. The outer realms seemed to be observing savages or rare animals in the mountains. They casually monitored Earth. Evolvers of various races came and went as they pleased. There was no status or dignity at all. If it was a flourishing evolutionary civilization on those powerful planets, such a situation would never occur. For instance, with so many divine sons and saintesses wanting to set foot on those flourishing planets, they would have to report and inform in advance. Otherwise, they would be regarded as invaders and would be killed. Chu Feng came back to his senses. It would be very troublesome to enter the starry skies. It had to be done in secret or else he would die without a doubt. I need to find a sect-guarding weapon that can suppress space and conceal one's aura to avoid the surveillance of the outer realms and heavenly eyes. Chu Feng pondered. Then, he came back to his senses and looked at the myriad star calabash. It was the size of a palm and seemed to be cast from purple gold. The most peculiar part was the glistening spots on the calabash's skin like twinkling stars. This should be the origin of its name. The calabash vine was glowing and exuberant with rich vitality. Multicolored light lingered around it as its roots and soil were dug out. It wasn't affected and was still growing vigorously. What's so precious about it? Chu Feng asked. Ziluan's eyes were very fiery as she said, "It can nurture swords, it can nurture pills, and it can also nurture people. Therefore, it has another name, it is called the Heaven Nurturing Gourd." The so-called sword nurturing was actually a general term. In truth, it could nurture all kinds of weapons. It contained an innate weapon nurturing domain that could slowly raise the quality of secret treasures. After wearing the gourd for a long time, the tens of thousands of spots on its skin could even nurture sword chi. At the critical moment, 10,000 sword chi would shoot out. What kind of scene would that be? As for nurturing pills, there was no need to mention it. Various treasures of heaven and earth weren't easy to preserve, let alone improve their quality. All of them would lose their divinity over time, and with this gourd by his side, this problem could be solved perfectly. As for nurturing people, this wasn't just empty words. It could absorb all types of energy particles between heaven and earth, including rare longevity substances. Wearing this gourd all year round could increase one's lifespan. Cultivating inside the gourd would yield twice the result with half the effort. Upon hearing this, Chu Feng's eyes lit up. This was truly a priceless treasure. No wonder it was said that once it matured, even the sages in the universe would be tempted. Brother Fu Wang, Miss Su Jing, many thanks. I really like this myriad star gourd. Chu Feng expressed his gratitude with a smile and cupped his fists at the two. Their expressions weren't very good. Fu Wang had grasped a breathing technique like the deity demon slaughtering record, and his ancestors came from the deity planet. Meanwhile, Su Jing came from the Great Su dynasty, and her sect was related to the top 10 planet. Her background was great. When the two had just come out, they were naturally unconvinced. How could they obediently hand over the myriad star gourd and fight fiercely with Chu Feng? Unfortunately, they weren't his match. Their strength was similar to Yuan Mo's, and they were both suppressed. Brother Fu Wang, I'll give you another piece of advice on account of you helping me keep an eye on Yuan Mo and not letting him escape when I was fighting the Shilin clan. Your name is inauspicious, so change it as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will be a great disaster in the future. Chu Feng advised with the appearance of a swindler. Just these few words caused Fu Huang and Yuan Mo's faces to darken. I have no enmity with you. Why did you rob me? Su Jing was furious. She could definitely be considered a heavenly princess with exceptional strength that far surpassed the other divine sons and saintesses. In the end, she was also captured by Chu Feng. You and Fu Huang attacked my follower, Yuan Mo, and injured him all over. I'm protecting my subordinates and demanding an explanation from you. Chu Feng laughed. Su Jing clenched her fists. She was conceited enough to surpass everyone else and had descended on this planet with longing and hope. She wanted to unearth top-notch breathing techniques, peerless secret techniques, and pick all kinds of sacred medicines. In the end, she had severed her own cultivation to come here in advance, only to encounter such a setback. She was the princess of a generation, and her sect was even more powerful. Being captured today was no small blow. Chu Feng comforted her, saying, "Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. When I contact your Great Su dynasty, I won't extort you. Just give me a ransom and I'll let you go when it's about time." This kind of consolation made everyone speechless. Su Jing had obviously been kidnapped. As for the main character, Su Jing, she almost fought with him again, but her energy had been sealed. Don't just watch the show. You'll all be auctioned off in a while. All of you, pay the ransom. Chu Feng stared at everyone. It could be said that all the divine sons and saintesses were cursing him. What was this? What kind of status did they have? Did they come to Earth just to be kidnapped and ransomed? Chu Feng said, "Everyone, get ready to go home and find your mothers. The auction will begin in a while. I hope we can smile and recall the past and forget our grudges when we meet again in the starry sky one day." CK your grandpa. The group of people wanted to curse out loud. Their faces turned as black as the bottom of a pot after hearing Chu Feng's words. He wanted to sell them? Did he want to pack them up and send them off? Preposterous. They didn't want to leave yet. How embarrassing would it be if they were sent back just like that? They still wanted to continue searching for fortunes on Earth. Chu Feng looked at them and said, "It's fine if you're willing to stay. Quickly discuss it with your family and pay a higher ransom. Then, pay a protection fee. I'll protect you in the future. Amen. This time, it's a real protection fee. It's not just for show. If one side is in trouble, I'll immediately provide support." Scoundrel. Many people cursed in their hearts. They had to pay protection fees in addition to the ransom. This was too despicable. Amen. Li Feng, what's up with you? Did you want to escape not long ago? Chu Feng stared at the tall and speechless saintess with an unkind expression. "No, I never left. I also entered the cave residence. Because of you, I was besieged by everyone. This was how Li Feng responded. Fine, where's Zhan He? Chu Feng believed that Zhan He had really escaped. If he was caught again, he would deal with him. He's here. I was besieged by them and had no choice but to escape. Now I'm back. Zhan He was a handsome saint's son of the crane race. He was now dressed in white as he crossed the blue sea. Chu Feng said, Fine, I'll let you pass. Come and help me clean up the spoils of war. Then, prepare to send these divine sons and saintesses on their way. He logged onto the Origin Beast platform and announced that he was going to auction off the geniuses of various races. Boom! The starry skies were in an uproar and seething with excitement. That was because this was a magnificent feat that had never happened before. This wasn't just one or two divine sons and saintesses, but dozens of them. It involved dozens of high-level planets. Normally, the disappearance of a single divine son or saintess would cause a huge commotion. Now, someone was going to auction dozens of them in one go. This was a bit like a dream. It was simply heaven-defying. This was also because the various sects couldn't enter Earth. If it were in the starry skies, a great battle would have broken out long ago. It would have triggered a great confrontation between planets. On this day, the Origin Beast platform erupted like a volcano. It was so hot that it was about to explode. Evolvers from various races gathered like clouds to pay attention to this matter. This is too deranged. Dozens of divine sons and saintesses. He's going to sell them just like that? It's reported that there were originally more, but some of them really didn't provoke him. So, he's going to release them unconditionally. These dozens of people have attacked Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and the others. They were once hostile to him, so he's decided to sell them all in one go. The starry skies were seething with excitement. Now, some experts from various orthodoxies were seething with anger. They hated Chu Feng so much that the roots of their teeth were itching, but they couldn't do anything about it. Today, some famous orthodoxies contacted each other. The greetings they used were quite strange. For example, has your saintess been sold? Our divine son is being auctioned. This was something that they wouldn't even dare to think about normally, but what happened today was just that outrageous. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chu Feng was astonished. He looked at Li Feng and said, You're saying that the heavenly halberd 9 forms is very powerful? Countless years ago, the vermilion bird ancestor used this technique to sweep through half the universe? Li Feng specifically mentioned the heavenly halberd 9 forms when she was helping him organize the spoils. At the same time, she tactfully expressed that she also wanted to learn it because she used the halberd. Unfortunately, the last form of the heavenly halberd 9 forms was destroyed during the battle. Li Feng regretfully said, There were a total of 9 stone slabs engraved with 9 mysterious diagrams of the secret technique. In the end, the last diagram was smashed into smithereens during the battle for the cave residents. Chu Feng was furious. Damn it, you bastards! You're too despicable! You actually destroyed my top secret technique. How are you going to pay for it? Those people cursed silently. It was their battle technique, but now it's been stolen by you. This is an inheritance belonging to the mother planet. You've ruined it. I'll sell all of you first. Don't leave a single man or woman alive. Contact your families and give each divine son or saintess a drop of deity elixir. Otherwise, kill them all, Chu Feng said viciously. These people were immediately in the mood to cry. The deity elixir was too heaven-defying. A single drop could solve all kinds of hidden dangers in one's body. It could be considered a rare treasure. You couldn't buy it even if you wanted to. This was an item of the deity race. They didn't even have enough for their own use, and would only occasionally drift into the universe's black market. It could only be encountered and not sought after, and every time it would be sold for an unimaginably high price. Chapter 523. There were 2 chapters in a row. This was the second chapter. You can't even buy it without the deity elixir? What's the use of having you? Chop them all up. Chu Feng ordered Yuan Mo. He was incomparably resentful after missing out on the heavenly halberd 9 forms. He was in a fit of anger and was ready to attack them. Yuan Mo was surging with killing intent. He really did walk over with his broadsword in hand because those people had attacked him before. Now, he wanted nothing more than to chop them up. In any case, he was from the demonic Tao and wasn't on good terms with the orthodoxies behind them. Show mercy. Little brother Chu Feng, we can talk things out. Don't be impulsive. On the Origin Beast platform, the families and sects behind them could no longer sit still. They couldn't watch their most powerful descendant be killed. All of them were anxious and angry. Although the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms is mysterious and known as a top-notch combat technique, it's not an exclusive art. It's widely spread throughout the cosmos. Let's go help our little friend buy this secret book and give him some of our predecessors' cultivation experiences. Very good. We can trade for a divine son. You families can discuss among yourselves. Whose child do you want to send away with sky-piercing express? The families were helpless after hearing his cruel words about packing up the divine sons and saintesses. At the same time, they were incomparably furious after hearing that they could only trade for one person. Little brother Chu Feng, although the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms isn't exclusive, its price in the cosmos is frighteningly high. It's easily worth tens of billions. Chu Feng curled his lips and said, I could have collected all the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, but one of them was destroyed by your child. Now you're just compensating me. Moreover, I don't want a secret book. I only want the 9th form. Afterward, he began to sell the 5 divine sons and saintesses. He offered a starting price of 2 billion for the divine sons and 4 billion for the saintesses. God damn it! The evolutionary sects with saintesses had the urge to curse out loud. The ransom price was doubled? This isn't fair. An old man was furious. Chu Feng cast a sidelong glance at him and said, What's unfair about it? Look, I've already said that the auction has started, but not a single person has asked about the divine son. However, someone has inquired about the 2 saintesses. It seems like they want to buy them. Heavens, great earth, send down lightning to strike that scoundrel to death. Someone cursed, truly angered to the extreme, truly wishing for nothing more than for Chu Feng to suffer the wrath of heaven. However, Chu Feng waited for a moment, but no one bid. The situation was not good. Brother Chu Feng, it's not that we want to criticize you, but this starting price is too expensive. What's the use of buying a divine son for 2 billion? Even if he recovers to the visualization realm, he won't be considered a top-notch expert. I can spend 2 billion to hire an even more powerful bodyguard, or even a mercenary team. 4 billion for a holy maiden. I'm sure there are people who want to buy her. After all, she's a rare resource that can't be bought normally. Some people with status want to buy her as a concubine, but it's still too expensive. Most importantly, you're going to sell a lot this time, not just 1 or 2 people. Someone on the Origin Beast platform said thus. Chu Feng was dissatisfied and said, Who said divine sons are worthless? I think everyone's sisters and aunts are potential customers who are interested in bidding. Once these words were spoken, the group of people wanted to tear him apart. This was no different from cursing people. Chu Feng said, I say, everyone, you guys are too male chauvinistic. You can buy a holy maiden, but your female relatives can't buy a divine son? Let me tell you, I won't lower the price today. I'm going to raise it. Then you won't be able to sell it if no one bids, someone said with a laugh. He wasn't in a hurry. Chu Feng saw that the families of the divine sons and saintesses weren't behaving themselves and were urging everyone not to bid. He was immediately furious and said, "I've decided to raise the price. Regardless of whether it's a divine son or a holy maiden, they're all 5 billion cosmic dollars each. If no one wants them, I'll chop them off. Yuan Mo, prepare to chop people up." "Hey, you can't do this." Those families immediately became anxious. How could they watch as their divine sons and holy maidens were beheaded? This demon King Chu was definitely targeting them and wanted them to redeem them at a high price. "Very good, we've set a precedent. From now on, the divine sons and holy maidens will be 5 billion each. That's the base price," Chu Feng said with surging killing intent. All the families were cursing. As for the captured divine sons and holy maidens, all of them lowered their heads in shame. "Zhan He Li Feng, Ziluan, call for Sky Piercer Express and get ready to mail them," Chu Feng said. Afterward, someone took the initiative to find him and wanted to redeem their family's princess. That was an old imperial uncle from the Great Su's evolutionary dynasty. They were afraid that Chu Feng would cause trouble, so it was better to rescue their niece first. Chu Feng smiled as he looked at Su Jing and said, "Your Highness, what do you think? I've already said that I won't demand an exorbitant price from your family. If they want you to go back, I'll release you immediately as long as they give me 5 or 6 billion cosmic dollars. Oh right, if you still want to stay and continue searching for opportunities on Earth, I'll protect you in the future if they pay another 2 billion. Su Jing was just like her name. She was very beautiful and elegant, but now her beautiful eyes were shooting out sword beams. She really wanted to kill someone. With the Great Su dynasty as an example, the other evolutionary sects couldn't sit still anymore. They took the initiative to find Chu Feng and wanted to pay the ransom to buy back their divine sons and holy maidens. The old monsters and lechers who originally wanted to participate in the auction were now anxious. They cursed Chu Feng for being a profiteer, and then some people braced themselves to bid. "I'm not at ease to exchange dozens of people for cosmic dollars. What if some old Jun Tua egg from the deity race jumps out and uses his influence to freeze my account?" Chu Feng wasn't willing to accept cosmic dollars anymore. He told them that he wanted secret manuals and great medicines that he could use in exchange. "How about this? I want the second volume of The World's End near at hand. If anyone has it, they can take their child back." Chu Feng demanded an exorbitant price. In the end, the group of people exploded after hearing this. "Brother Chu Feng, your words are too outrageous. Do you know how much the second volume of The World's End near at hand is worth? It's at least 100 billion. Chu Feng was shocked out of his wits. It was only the second volume, yet it was already so expensive? Then what about the follow-up? He was a bit dazed. Then he decided to sell the divine sons and saintesses at a ruthless high price. "Brother Chu Feng, you can't be too black-hearted. I still want to buy a saintess, but in the end, your price is already above the ceiling and even above the vault of heaven. How can people compete? You can't be too good, Chu Feng. It's too expensive." The group of old monsters and lechers expressed their resentment. Those evolutionary sects and the families of the divine sons and saintesses were also shouting that it was expensive. Chu Feng thought about it and said, "You all think it's too expensive. How about this? I'll buy 10 people in one go, 5 divine sons and 5 saintesses, in exchange for the second volume of The World's End near at hand." The group of people was speechless after hearing this. Since when could divine sons and saintesses be sold in groups? This was too unreasonable. Earth, Eastern Sea. The captive divine sons and saintesses were all incomparably resentful, ashamed, and resentful. In the outer realm, a group of people was still dissatisfied. The evolutionary sects behind those divine sons and saintesses were even more anxious. Previously, one divine son was 5 billion cosmic dollars. Now it's at least 10 billion. This is too unfair. Chu Feng, you've gone too far. Chu Feng glared at them and said, That's the price. I can tell you very responsibly that the higher it goes, the more expensive it gets. If you want to redeem them, you should do it as soon as possible. Yuan Mo, raise your blades. If those 10 people aren't sold, chop them all up. Damn it. Could they still have a pleasant conversation? The group of people cursed incessantly in private. In the end, Chu Feng didn't insist to the end. He allowed the 12 sects to join hands and exchange the second volume of The World's End near at hand for the 12 descendant. Ziluan, register them carefully. Those 12 people will be packed up and sent away in a while, said Chu Feng. The group of captives didn't want to say anything. They only wanted to bite Chu Feng when they saw him. Everyone, it's fate that we met. You'll be on your way home soon. I'll miss you all. Chu Feng was very enthusiastic. He then sighed emotionally and said, One day, when I enter the starry skies and walk through the vital stars, I will see that the strongest experts there were all sold by me. Yes, I will definitely feel a sense of accomplishment. After hearing these words, the various divine sons and saintesses couldn't take it anymore and wanted to eat him alive. Oh right, Damring Pure Land's Qin Luoyin has a distant cousin, right? Don't sell her by accident. Keep her for now. Later on, I'll have to have a good chat with that daydreaming woman surnamed Qin. Chu Feng warned. Luo Miaoxiang almost fainted after hearing this. On the Origin Beast platform, the special guest Grandpa Luo's beard was curling up as he glared angrily. He really wanted to kill his way to Earth. Brother Chu Feng, it's too tiring for you to sell divine sons and saintesses like this. Let me help you massage your shoulders and legs. It was at this time that the great demoness Zhao Qing appeared. She had a devilish figure and was sexy and enchanting. She walked over gracefully and amorously. Okay, my whole body is sore. Chu Feng smiled happily and indicated that she could massage his back and shoulders. Then, he continued to sell divine sons and saintesses. Chapter 524. On the big ship, Chu Feng sat on a rattan chair and observed the rest of the captives comfortably before continuing with the auction. Behind him was the mature and charming demoness Zhao Qing. She was around 175 centimeters tall, and her black dress contrasted with her snow-white skin. Her figure was extremely good with undulating curves that made people gasp in admiration. Zhao Qing had slightly wavy long hair, charming eyes, and fiery red lip. She was exceptionally beautiful, sexy, and flirtatious. She was currently massaging Chu Feng's back and shoulders in a rather professional manner. This made the group of divine sons and saintesses truly speechless. They had been reduced to captives, yet that native heaven's chosen was acting in such a manner. He was enjoying it so much, and was even selling them out. How could they endure this? Ziluan glanced at her from time to time and was extremely dissatisfied. She felt that this demoness was too seductive. She was actually massaging Chu Feng's shoulders in front of everyone's eyes. Oh, little sister, what's with that look in your eyes? Are you jealous of me? Then come and help me. Zhao Qing smiled. Her big eyes were full of life, and her red lips were bewitching as she provoked Ziluan. Shameless. Ziluan's little face was flushed red as she muttered softly and glared at her. Chu Feng turned back and said, Ziluan, bring that Luo Miaoxiang over. Isn't she the cousin of Qin Luoyin from the Damring Pure Land? She has to be sold for a high price. Despite her unwillingness, Ziluan still twisted her small waist and walked into the group of captives to bring her out. Luo Miaoxiang's mood was complicated and anxious. She could still smile when she was captured earlier because she wasn't very worried. But now she was very perturbed. She had a peerless distant cousin, Qin Luoyin. She had entered the Tao through dreams and surpassed her predecessors. At the same time, she was one of the most beautiful women in the starry skies. She ought to be basking in her glory, but now it was giving her a headache. It said that Qin Luoyin is a proud daughter of heaven and is comparable to the 10 most powerful Tao children. Her status is extremely high, and since you're her cousin, some old monsters might extend their love to you and offer a high price if you're auctioned. Chu Feng smiled faintly. Then, he directly told Luo Miaoxiang, "You can contact that cousin of yours. 5 drops of deity elixir." Luo Miaoxiang was immediately anxious. None of the orthodoxies behind so many divine sons and saintesses had been able to offer a drop of deity elixir. Now that it was her turn, Chu Feng was asking for 5 drops? How could this be? In Luo Miaoxiang's opinion, not to mention a distant cousin, even a biological cousin might not agree. "Chu Feng, you've misunderstood our relationship," Luo Miaoxiang explained. She had already noticed that Qin Luoyin had targeted Chu Feng not long ago. She had destroyed the golden invitation in his hand and coldly rejected him, thoroughly offending this demon. That saintess who loves to daydream has a very high status. Presumably, 5 drops of deity elixir are nothing to her, Chu Feng muttered to himself, ignoring her words. At this time, a famous person on the Origin Beast platform was looking for Chu Feng. It was the special guest, Grandpa Luo. He couldn't bear to watch any longer because his granddaughter was about to suffer a calamity. If she was really sold, Grandpa Luo would go crazy. "Chu Feng, this old man has something to say. As the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. This has nothing to do with Miaoxiang. If you have any dissatisfaction, you should look for Fairy Qin Luoyin." "How should I address you? Grandpa Luo, right?" Indeed, this originally had nothing to do with Saintess Miaoxiang, but why did you curse me on the Origin Beast platform? Also, that damned daydreaming girl was arrogant and rude to me. As a matter of fact, I couldn't catch you and that little girl, so I had no choice but to keep your granddaughter here to talk about life's ideals. Grandpa Luo was anxious. In his eyes, Chu Feng was a scoundrel. Something might happen if he really kept him. "What do you want in order to let Miaoxiang go?" he shouted. Chu Feng smiled and said, "First of all, you cursed me. This is a rather regrettable matter. For this, you'll have to praise me every day on the Origin Beast platform." In the starry skies, everyone had an odd expression on their faces. How shameless was this? A notorious human trafficker had to be praised every day, and Grandpa Luo was a special guest. How could he not feel? He had to go against his conscience and praise the person who had kidnapped his granddaughter. Just the thought of it made one want to vomit blood. "Moreover, you'll have to pay 5 billion cosmic dollars as a protection fee." "What? You want me to pay protection fees?" Grandpa Luo asked. Chu Feng nodded calmly and said, "That's right, this 5 billion isn't a ransom. It's a protection fee to ensure that your mind won't be stimulated. I'm simply keeping Saintess Luo Miaoxiang here. At most, she'll serve you tea and nothing else. You can't send Miaoxiang back even after paying 5 billion cosmic dollars?" Grandpa Luo was anxious. "I've already said that 5 billion cosmic dollars is a protection fee, not a ransom. You've gone too far. What will it take for you to let her go?" Grandpa Luo asked. "I've already said that you and that damned daydreaming girl were too arrogant and rude to me. Now that your problem has been solved, I'll naturally deal with that girl's side. I'll take a step back and ask that Qin girl to apologize to me and give me a drop of deity elixir. Then, I'll hand over 10 billion as a ransom. That's settled." This. Grandpa Luo had a headache. How was he supposed to ask Qin Luoyin? The damning Pure Land was too powerful, and that distant relative's status was so high. Was he supposed to accept a threat? Chu Feng sneered and said, "You don't need to worry. Just tell that damned girl about this. Whether she's willing to save her cousin or not is up to her. Let her do as she sees fit." At this moment, everyone revealed odd expressions. This was truly a scoundrel. Was Qin Luoyin going to save her or not? If she didn't, she would definitely appear to be inhumane. Even if people didn't say anything, they would have their own thoughts in their hearts. But if she really gave in because of this, she would have to bow her head and apologize to this demon and offer up all kinds of resources. Just the thought of this scene made people speechless. Qin Luoyin entered the Tao through dreams. She was the most outstanding and talented disciple in the history of this orthodoxy and could easily kill people in their dreams. She wasn't the strongest among the younger generation, but she was close enough to be ranked among the top few under the starry skies. In addition, she was also known as the sixth beauty under the starry skies and was extremely famous. She had already made her stance clear. She loathed Chu Feng and deprived him of the right to enter the damning Pure Land. She didn't give him any fortunes or the chance to become Tao companions. In the end, did she have to bow her head and apologize to him now? This was truly difficult to dismount. It wasn't easy to choose between face and kinship. Qin Luoyin had just returned from hell. People guessed that she hadn't paid attention to Chu Feng before and didn't know that her distant cousin had been captured. Otherwise, she would have calmed him down first and wouldn't be so passive. That damned daydreaming girl, do as you see fit. Chu Feng didn't pay any more attention to her after saying this. Everyone was speechless. He kept on calling her a damned girl. He was probably the only one in the entire starry skies who dared to be so disrespectful and indifferent to Qin Luoyin. Then, he waved his hand and asked Luo Miaoxiang to come forward to massage his back and shoulders with Zhao Qing. Grandpa Luo's eyes were spitting fire. Demon Chu, how can you be like this? I just paid 5 billion cosmic dollars. What more do you want? Isn't this normal? It's just a back massage. Isn't it a waste to have such a great demoness standing there? Chu Feng said. The demoness Zhao Qing's smile was brilliant and incomparably charming. She taught Luo Miaoxiang how to massage his back. Everyone's eyes were glued to the sight. This wasn't an ordinary kind of enjoyment. Extravagant, indulgent, and unbecoming. The proud girl Zi Luan muttered resentfully. Her large eyes glanced over, but all she saw were the whites of her eyes. In the starry skies, Elder Qi, who was a special guest with Grandpa Luo, was also worried. He was secretly wiping away his cold sweat because his granddaughter Qi Yu had also been caught. As expected, Chu Feng seemed to have thought of something at this moment. Bring that girl dressed as a man here. Her grandfather also scolded me. Qi Yu was embarrassed and angry. She was like a female leopard with a healthy figure and tanned skin. She was very beautiful and possessed a kind of wild beauty. Chu Feng and Elder Qi had a friendly exchange and made him pay a protection fee. Afterward, there was another special guest who praised him on the Origin Beast platform. As for his granddaughter, she was temporarily detained, just like Luo Miaoxiang. Behind Chu Feng, the demoness had gained another disciple. Qi Yu's wild nature was difficult to tame. She was beating Chu Feng's back unwillingly with great force. This old man is so jealous. Little brother Chu Feng, can't you sincerely auction off a few saintesses? Look, in the end, these divine sons and saintesses have all been redeemed by their respective orthodoxies and families. This is a kind of harm to us, the real buyers. An old monster expressed his dissatisfaction. The highest bidder wins. I can only say that you lack sincerity. Chu Feng was calm and unmoved. At this time, Yuan Mo informed him in a low voice that among the divine sons and saintesses, there were people from Penglai and Fangzhong Island as the young island masters of these two secret realms. Chop them up. Chu Feng ordered coldly without even blinking. He didn't want to say much to these two races. Boom. After receiving this order, Yuan Mo had just walked forward when 7 figures leapt out from the blue sea and swooped down to attack the ship. Humph, I've long since sensed someone approaching. So it's you guys. At this time, Chu Feng personally took action. He soared into the air and used the world's end near at hand at an inconceivable speed as he faced the 7 experts from Penglai and Fangzhong Island. They wanted to save them but were blocked. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng's fist radiated resplendent light and surged with purple mist, drowning the blue sea. The first person who had rushed over was immediately blown up in midair. Heavens, that's the Eastern Violet Chi fist? At this moment, everyone was shaken, including the legendary guests from the outer realms. That was because Chu Feng had just obtained this fist manual and had only read it once. How could he use it now? Boom. Following which, the second evolver of the visualization realm was blown up by Chu Feng's fist. Blood rained down in all directions, and the purple mist was vast and mighty. The fist seal was terrifying and possessed an unrivaled stance. Too shocking. He can use it right after obtaining the manual. In the starry skies, everyone's expressions changed. What was a freak? This was it. The Eastern Violet Chi fist was an extremely ancient fist technique. It was exceptionally profound and difficult to learn. It was a true top-notch combat technique, and not many people could successfully cultivate it. However, Chu Feng had just come into contact with it and was already able to use 2 fists. This shocked everyone. At this point, everyone thoroughly understood that Demon Chu was exceptionally extraordinary. He was a heaven-bestowed freak. Following which, people saw him continuously brandishing his fist. It was terrifying to the extreme. Purple mist came from the east, and the 7 visualization-level experts who had come were all killed by him. Not a single one could escape. And he had only used 11 fists. Chu Feng landed on the deck of the large ship with a glaring purple mist, a rain of light and a dense purple mist. He sat on a rattan chair, his energy aura astonishing. At this moment, beams of light flew out from his eyes. They were like tangible lightning interweaving in the sea, frightening people to their souls. He was like a true demon king. Fang Zhang, Penglai's remnant races, I've truly underestimated you. You were able to smoothly send out visualization-level experts because you had the geographical advantage and because you were originally battle servants. Behind him, the demoness Zhao Qing took the initiative to massage his back. At the same time, she instructed Qi Yu and Luo Miaoxiang to attack together. Chu Feng was very satisfied with the Eastern Violet Chi fist. Although he had brandished 11 fists, he had only used 2 moves in total. This ancient fist manual was broad and profound. It was truly a peerless chapter that required careful study. He turned back to look at Ziluan and Yuan Mo and asked, "Do you know of any materials or secret manuals that can increase one's strength in a short period of time? Let's not talk about the ordinary ones. I only want treasures now." Ziluan tilted her head, thought for a moment and said, "Indeed." The demoness was very proactive. She smiled sweetly and rushed to say, "I know." Chapter 525. There's such a thing in hell. It's definitely a precious substance that can strengthen one's body and increase one's strength. Great demoness Zhao Qing informed him immediately. She had a smile on her face as she narrated in detail like a dutiful subordinate and maid. This made Ziluan roll her eyes. This demoness was overly attentive and taking the initiative. Could it be that she really wanted to stay behind and do some messy things with Chu Feng? There's a type of black ant in hell that can eat ferocious Arhat-level birds and beasts. It's extremely terrifying. Zhao Qing informed him that there was a type of divine liquid in that terrifying ant nest. It was said to be refined by those hellish ants, just like how bees collect pollen to make honey. Those hellish ants were even more terrifying. The secret liquid they brewed could strengthen one's body and produce terrifying strength. How powerful are the effects? Chu Feng asked. It's said that after consuming this divine liquid, the strength of one's body and strength will increase by at least 5 times. Think about it. 2 people who were originally evenly matched, but one of them consumes the divine liquid brewed by the hellish ants. When they fight again, the balance will definitely be seriously unbalanced. Chu Feng listened and nodded seriously. Naturally, he knew what it meant to have one's body and strength increase by several times. This was equivalent to an additional evolution. Very good. Chu Feng nodded. For many years, a few beings determined to walk the path of the strongest wouldn't miss out on the hellish ant elixir. So much so that the geniuses nurtured by the top-ranked orthodoxies, such as the damning Pure Land and the deity race, must consume this divine elixir. This is an indispensable step. Chu Feng frowned. There were many methods for top-notch races to nurture their descendant. He had only heard of such a precious substance, but it was a necessity for the top 10. What else? He continued to ask. Zhao Qing said, naturally, there are other divine items. It's just that they're too rare. It's hard to see them for many years, such as the Origin Magnetic Sacred Fruit, the 9 Orifices Tribulation Flower, and the Myriad Star Grass. Chu Feng frowned after hearing this. The things she mentioned were too heaven-defying. Under normal circumstances, it was simply impossible to find them. That was because he had heard Yao Yao mention that these divine substances were effective for Yao Yao's resurrection. They were necessary items. Then, he asked Yuan Mo and Ziluan to add more. In the end, the rare materials mentioned were all about the same. In summary, with Chu Feng's current level, there weren't many things he could buy on the black market. The only things he could buy were the hellish ant elixir and the god bee honey. Then, in the following auctions, the descendants of the various divine sons and saintesses had a hard time. This was because Chu Feng clearly stated that he wanted the hellish ant elixir and pushed out 10 people in one go. The sects and families behind those 10 felt dizzy on the spot. The hellish ant elixir was too rare and precious, and it was extremely difficult to collect. It fed on golden Arhat-level creatures, and they were densely packed together. They were incomparably powerful, and it was very difficult to enter their nest to steal it. There was even a rumor that some particularly powerful queen ants could even eat saints. Not long ago, Qin Luoyin had just returned from hell. Why? It was to personally search for fortuitous encounters and obtain the hellish ant elixir. Of course, she had a protector by her side. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to succeed. One could imagine that even an orthodoxy like the damning Pure Land didn't have much hellish ant elixir in reserve. Naturally, it was exceptionally precious. In a sense, the hellish ant elixir wasn't inferior to the deity elixir, and their prices were similar. As long as a genius wanted to be unrivaled in the same realm, they wouldn't miss out on the hellish ant elixir. 10 divine sons and saintesses in exchange for 10 drops of hellish ant elixir. What do you think? Chu Feng asked. In the starry skies, the sects and families of the divine sons and saintesses had incomparably ugly expressions. This was somewhat difficult to accept. Even if they were to spend a huge sum of money to buy it in the universe's black market, they might not necessarily be able to buy it. 1 drop of hellish ant elixir is enough to baptize a genius physical body. They might not be able to endure too much, the great demoness Zhao Qing reminded Chu Feng. Chu Feng nodded, but he really wanted to stock up on a few drops. However, those orthodoxies obviously wouldn't agree. 1 drop could increase a person's physical body and strength by several times, and their combat strength would soar. This was a rare and precious substance that was said to be priceless. Little friend, you must know that the hellish ant elixir is very difficult to purchase. Those who hunt it down usually won't sell it. It's as rare as the deity elixir. Yes, brother Chu Feng, it's difficult for your predecessors. If we really want to trade, we're only confident in finding 1 drop. Not long ago, a saint died. A powerful ant queen killed the saint and devoured his blood, causing the hellish ant elixir to become more and more expensive. 1 drop? Impossible. Chu Feng shook his head. However, he sighed in the end. He hadn't even gotten 1 drop of deity elixir. It was indeed difficult to obtain 10 drops of hellish ant elixir of the same level. Someone sighed. 2 drops, that's all we have. This thing isn't easy to preserve, and no one keeps it. Whoever gets it will use it immediately to increase their strength. Then, they expressed that they were willing to give up some cosmic dollars. This was because they really didn't have any more hellish ant elixir. They had already asked the universe's black market, but there was no supply in the near future. Chu Feng could see that this was really their limit. Fine, 2 drops of hellish ant and 50 billion cosmic dollars as compensation. Chu Feng was demanding an exorbitant price. This was a one-off deal, and he had long since offended them. You are ruthless. Some of the old monsters from the orthodoxies wanted to curse. As for the 10 divine sons and saintesses, they were even more ashamed. Why had they come to Earth? They had actually been sold back to their homeworld. This was too shameful. Next, Chu Feng pushed out 10 more divine sons and saintesses and asked for the hellish ant elixir from the powers behind them. In the end, they reached an agreement, and the conditions were similar to the previous group. What a pity. I've unknowingly sold dozens of people. There aren't many left. Chu Feng shook his head. Then, he sighed. Divine sons and saintesses only regret not having enough when they're needed. These words were transmitted to the starry skies, causing a group of people to curse. It was said that only when they were needed would they regret not having enough. His words made people want to beat him up. In reality, Chu Feng wasn't mocking the crowd. He was completely serious. As he saw it, divine sons and saintesses were hard currency. He said to himself, should I keep some divine sons and saintesses? This kind of hard currency is even better than cosmic dollars. The group was speechless, and the related parties wanted to kill him. What followed was also very lively. Chu Feng sold the remaining divine sons and saintesses. In the end, he didn't keep too much hard currency. Wormhole Express. 3 days later, Chu Feng contacted this mysterious wormhole company and prepared to deliver the goods. That was because he had received some payment in succession. At the same time, if there were any problems, the Origin Beast platform would vouch for them. Chu Feng chose an island in the Eastern Sea and found a folded space. That was because the wormhole opened by the Wormhole Express could only reach those places and couldn't set foot in Earth's main space. In the depths of the island, within the folded space. This time, a wormhole opened up and a box made of special material appeared. In name, it was an escape capsule, but in fact, it was a packing box for the divine sons and saintesses. Brother, have a safe journey. Within the folded space, Chu Feng saw them off one by one. Now, he patted the shoulder of a divine son and said, "Take care." Those who didn't know better would think that the two had deep feelings for each other. In the end, the next step was to stuff the divine son into the packing box and seal it. "Continue," Chu Feng said. On the side, Ji Luan was placing orders and using her photon computer to fill in the addresses and coordinates of the divine sons and saintesses to be mailed. Li Feng acted as her assistant and was seriously proofreading. That was because, if they were to be mailed wrongly, someone would die. The next person was a saintess with a bitter expression. She was angry but didn't dare to say anything in front of Chu Feng. Now, she was about to be sent back to her hometown. This made her feel ashamed. She was a saintess from a certain high-ranking planet, but she had suffered a setback here. It was too depressing. "Sister, be happy. You're going home. This is a happy occasion. I'll miss you." Chu Feng comforted her. He was very attentive as he helped the saintess into the tin can. After the saintess had been mailed away, Chu Feng shouted, "Continue." Next, it was another divine son's turn. Chu Feng looked into his eyes and said, "Brother, if we meet again in the future, I'll treat you to a drink. I'm looking forward to the day when I meet an old friend in a foreign land. *CK your grandpa." This divine son wanted to curse out loud, but he hadn't left yet. It wasn't safe, so he could only endure. He said in a low voice, "It's best if we don't meet again in this lifetime." People discovered that Chu Feng was sending them off one by one. His words were different each time and his expression was sincere. Those who didn't know better might even think that he was reluctant to part. "Sister, you're called Li Miao, right? Actually, I really don't want to sell you. I originally wanted to leave behind a beautiful story, but the situation forced me to do so. Take care, I'll go to the starry sky to visit you in the future. Brother, go back and cultivate well. Strive to become the #1 expert on your planet. If I go to find you in the future, I'll have face too." Just like that, Chu Feng sent off dozens of people. He exhorted and exhorted them many times and was extremely enthusiastic. Afterward, when it was Princess Su Jing of the Great Su Dynasty's turn, Chu Feng was even more earnest. He said, "Your Highness, if you need anything in the future, don't hesitate to look for me. For example, if you want to become an empress, I'll lend you a hand." Su Jing glared at him fiercely and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Then go on your way." Chu Feng wanted to stuff her into the escape pod right away. "You remembered wrong. I'm not going back. I choose to stay on Earth." Su Jing hurriedly shouted. This bastard was too hateful. Just now, he was sending her off warmly, and now he wanted to stuff her into a tin can. The Great Su Dynasty paid an extra protection fee for Princess Su to stay, Ziluan reminded. "Sorry, I remembered wrong. Your Highness, this way please. You're free now." Chu Feng let Su Jing go. Then, Fu Wang also chose to stay and pay an extra protection fee. At this point, the grand auction of the divine sons and saintesses came to an end. The great demoness Zhao Qing was still beside Chu Feng. She had chosen to stay, while Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu were temporarily detained by Chu Feng. "You guys cultivate on the sea for the time being. I'm going to visit a friend." Chu Feng suddenly dived into the sea and headed toward the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace to find the dragoness. After seeing the dragoness again, Chu Feng stuffed a few golden snake fruits into her hands and said, "I'm going into seclusion in the true dragon lair." The dragoness felt the power of the golden snake fruits and was exceptionally happy. She was very grateful to Chu Feng. This kind of thing was worth 100 million cosmic dollars in the starry sky and had astonishing effects on the purification of the bloodline of the snake race. "I'll take you there." The dragoness led the way. In the end, Chu Feng entered the true dragon lair. He was going to practice his fist techniques here and consume the hellish ant elixir before starting his seclusion. Chapter 526. Chu Feng saw even more clearly after arriving at the underwater secret realm once again. The true dragon's lair was indeed unfathomable. Even now, it would be difficult for him to charge in. In the depths of the ruins, there were patches of lightning-struck wood. Draconic energy gushed out from within the natural cave, creating an extraordinary scene. The dragoness had long since left, leaving only Chu Feng standing here. He gazed attentively with his fiery eyes shooting out golden beams of light. His heart was somewhat excited. Within the mysterious cave, there was a small tree with a dragon's head and horn. It was like a young dragon hatching and growing slowly over the years. It was hazy but very real. That was the dragon embryo tree. Additionally, there were beautiful flowers with dazzling petals. Each one was like a dragon's scale and grew upside down. This was the reverse scale flower. Some of the flower buds were as red as blood, others were surging with purple energy, and some were as dazzling as gold. Good stuff. Chu Feng sighed. Although he was tempted, he didn't force his way in because he knew the ins and outs of this place. Back in the day, a domain master had come here with great ambitions. But in the end, he regretted it for the rest of his life because he couldn't seize the fortunes here. And now, Chu Feng was also a domain master. He might die if he were to forcefully seize the fortunes. As for the lightning-struck wood and dragon blood grass outside the lair, he could take some away. I can't run away in the end. As my attainments in the field of domains increase, this will be my place of rebirth. Chu Feng revealed a resolute expression. Back in the day, that domain master had come here not to pick herbs but to try to construct a special domain to nourish himself and achieve a super-evolution. This wasn't a baseless rumor. There was an actual example. A domain genius had once laid down a world-shocking nurturing ground. He used 18 different domains to construct an area with shockingly dense life energy and strengthened an abandoned ancient phoenix lair. In the end, that person stayed in the phoenix lair and achieved several great evolutions. In the end, he became a shockingly powerful expert of the generation. This kind of evolution was quite odd. Instead of devouring mutant fruits, he devoured mountains and rivers. His boldness was even greater, and of course, he also borrowed the Phoenix Lair's rebirth ability. The true Dragon's Lair naturally possessed special divine abilities and secret powers. Back then, the Domain Master had set his eyes on this place, but unfortunately, he wasn't capable enough and wasn't able to make use of it. Chu Feng was confident that he could set it up here when his attainments in domains had deepened one day. This place would become the place where he would rise to power. I won't think about it for now. Chu Feng's will was firm, and he quickly calmed himself down. Then, he began to cultivate here. His harvest from the opening of the East Sea Cave this time was too abundant. He was the final winner, and this was worth celebrating. With some rare resources in hand, he naturally hoped to transform them into his own strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, everything else would be for naught. The East Rising Purple Chi Fist, as a very ancient fist technique of this land, had once again seen the light of day. Chu Feng was filled with joy and anticipation. He had already learned that this was a supreme combat technique. Right now, he was deducing it, performing it over and over again. He was trying to figure it out, pondering and researching it seriously. Not long after, the purple gas was so dense that it couldn't be dispersed. It completely submerged him and the surrounding terrain, as if a large expanse of clouds and mist had covered this area. Bang! Boom! Very soon, a loud sound was heard. It was as if 1,000 layers of waves were striking the sky, or as if a mountain had suddenly exploded. The sound was deafening. In the field, Chu Feng was glowing amidst the purple mist. His fists were as white as jade as he displayed them, but they were smashing into the void and causing it to explode without end. Then, the place became quiet again. He was still brandishing his fists, but his movements slowed down and sometimes even stopped. For an entire 2 days and 2 nights, Chu Feng was researching this fist technique. He had forgotten everything else as he stared at the stone tablet. There was only this ancient fist technique recorded in his mind. In the end, he let out a long breath and stopped. He had understood the grand fist intent, but to truly understand it thoroughly and reach great heights required actual combat. He needed to analyze it a step further. Then, he ate a golden snake fruit. He felt a power originating from his bloodline, but the effect wasn't that great. Chu Feng nodded. There were 2 reasons for this. First, everyone knew that this had great benefits for the snake race's bloodline purification. It wasn't so obvious for other races. Second, Yao Yao had said that he was a pure-blooded descendant and should have reverted to his ancestry. It seems it's better to sell the golden snake fruit or exchange it for other mutant fruits. Then, Chu Feng began to practice the heavenly halberd 9 forms. It just so happened that he had a large white flag on him. It was a weapon he had seized from a Shilin clan genius. This weapon looked like a heavy weapon, but it was actually very light. That was because it was used in conjunction with spiritual arts. Although it was very light, it was indeed sharp. When Chu Feng brandished it, it was like a silver river pouring down in torrents and enveloping the void. It was surging with murderous intent and extremely splendid. The heavenly halberd 9 forms is truly extraordinary. It's simply not a martial art of the human world. Chu Feng sighed. No wonder there were rumors that the vermilion bird ancient ancestor had mastered the heavenly halberd 9 forms and swept through half the universe. During that era, he was known as an unrivaled divine bird of his generation. Those families in the starry skies had already fulfilled Chu Feng's request and helped him complete the 9th form. Now, Chu Feng was displaying them one by one. The halberd drew a mysterious trajectory, and each form was accompanied by complex divine text annotations. If one were to study them in detail, they would see myriad changes. Anyone who thought it was only 9 forms would be gravely mistaken. The 9 fixed forms had to be accompanied by all kinds of blossoming symbols in order to develop limitless possibilities. Chu Feng was immersed within and only stopped after studying for 2 days and 2 nights. He memorized the myriad changes and his mind was filled with all kinds of mysterious symbols corresponding to the halberd. He still needed to test it out in actual combat. Moreover, 2 days and 2 nights weren't enough to thoroughly study this kind of secret book. He knew that there would be no lack of battles to come. Now that he had planted the seeds of the Eastern Violet Chi Fist and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, the 2 secret arts would shine and heat when he clashed with the young god's troops. They would mature through the tempering of blood and fire. Then, Chu Feng took out a piece of jade. It was sparkling and translucent, and within it was sealed a drop of black liquid. This was the hellish ant elixir, which could strengthen one's constitution. Chu Feng definitely wouldn't be stingy with such a beneficial substance. After studying the Fist Manual and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms, he crushed the jade and swallowed the drop of liquid that was glowing like a black sun. The taste wasn't very good, it was somewhat astringent and bitter. However, the hellish ant elixir was astonishingly effective. Within a single breath, Chu Feng's body erupted with a dazzling black light. His entire body had turned as black as ink. Moreover, an extremely terrifying creature had appeared within the black light. It was precisely the hellish ant elixir. That was their imprint, and it seemed as though it had materialized. Afterwards, the black light rushed forth and baptized Chu Feng's flesh and blood, his organs, and even his bone marrow. Chu Feng's body trembled incessantly. That was because his metabolism was too fast. It was somewhat terrifying. Sweat flowed continuously as mucus flowed out from his pores. His cells were becoming more active. At this moment, he felt his body becoming sore and then in intense pain. His constitution was beginning to improve. His body trembled and his bones emitted metallic sounds. Chu Feng circulated his breathing technique in order to coordinate with these changes. He wanted to make himself stronger. The hellish ant elixir was extremely extraordinary. It could stimulate the primal activity within the body and cause intense transformations. In the end, when everything stopped, the black light on Chu Feng's body faded away. His body became increasingly white and suffused with a layer of gentle and precious splendor. My strength and physical strength have increased by 6 times. It's indeed miraculous. Chu Feng sighed in admiration. He didn't stop there. Instead, he drank a second drop of the hellish ant elixir. The black light once again enveloped him like a demonic god standing within a black sun. Unfortunately, although it was effective this time, the increase wasn't as obvious. The 2 drops of hellish ant elixir together increased his physical strength and strength by 7 times. It seems this is the only way at this stage, Chu Feng muttered to himself. No wonder one drop of hellish ant-elixir was enough. It seemed that it was indeed the case. Chu Feng didn't stay for long and directly exited. With a splash, he drilled out of the sea, stirring up a large splash. Afterwards, he felt the atmosphere in the entire eastern sea become somewhat tense. That was because some problems had occurred in the outside world during the 4 days he had disappeared. Some people from the outer realms had arrived and many troops had also arrived from the star passages. They were all lacking the final resolution and were ready to cross over at any time. Many of the native entities were quite apprehensive. In the outer realms there was a beautiful woman in white. Her hair wasn't long and only reached her snow-white neck. She possessed a tranquil and calm temperament as she strode through the space outside Earth. Void golden lotuses would appear with every step she took. Those were energy forms. As she strode through the gloomy outer space, the golden lotuses swayed and sprinkled down golden light. She wasn't alone. There was a group of people following behind her, and she was the leader. When will the demon hunting begin? She muttered to herself in the universal language. Without photon computers, the beings on Earth wouldn't be able to understand even if they met face to face. In truth, her group wasn't the first to arrive. There were others. For instance, there was a young man in the distance who looked like a Taoist priest. He looked to be in his 20s, but his eyes were deep and full of vicissitudes. His entire body was golden. At the same time, there was a group of people following behind this young Taoist priest. All of them possessed extraordinary strength. At this time, a girl in blue walked over with a group of people behind her. She smiled and said, "A golden Arhat level character is leading us. We've come with so many people, but can we really enter this planet's main space?" These were people from some famous orthodoxies in the cosmos. They all came from high-ranking planet. Their divine sons and saintesses had been captured and sold off by Chu Feng. In the end, every family paid a huge ransom in exchange for their direct descendant. But how could they accept being extorted like this? Now, some powers had joined forces and dispatched a large number of people led by Golden Arhat level experts to descend on Earth. Don't worry, there'll be a chance to enter Earth's main space. Just wait patiently. At this time, a young man with fluttering golden hair spoke. He stood outside Earth with his hands behind his back. His eyes were like lightning, and a group of people followed behind him. Batch after batch of people arrived. There were over 100 teams, and each team had at least 20 to 30 people. They weren't all from the sects of the kidnapped divine sons and saintesses. There were also many interstellar hunters and mercenaries. The composition was complicated. Chapter 527. There's no rush. I believe the saints in the starry skies are correct in their deductions. We'll have a chance to enter the main space of this planet. Someone nodded with a confident smile. Recently, some sages in the depths of the starry skies had come to a conclusion. After so many years, the operation of the domains on Earth could no longer be as accurate. This was related to the starry skies and the power of time. Just like a mechanical watch, it was accurate in the beginning, but errors would appear one day. This was unavoidable. Too much time had passed since ancient times and many great battles had occurred. The domain mechanical watch on this planet was now flawed and no longer accurate. Some sages guessed that there would be gaps in some regions of the Earth's domains every few decades. At that time, one could charge into the Earth's main space immediately. However, the gaps were very small and didn't allow powerful beings to charge in. The limit was Golden Arhat level evolvers. Moreover, this time was very short and fleeting. At the same time, even if one successfully smuggled in, it would be extremely dangerous in the Earth's main space. That was because the Earth's will had gradually awakened and would correct the errors. Hence, one couldn't stay for long even if they were to successfully descend. They had to leave as soon as possible. Although the time was limited, it was enough for a Golden Arhut level evolver to do a lot of things. For instance, kill Chu Feng. In the starry skies, some orthodoxies hated him to the core. They wouldn't let him live if they had the chance. Naturally, it was impossible for so many people to come just to kill Chu Feng. If they wanted to kill him, a Golden Arhut level evolver was enough. At present, at least dozens of orthodoxies had dispatched troops, including some famous interstellar hunters and even cosmic mercenaries. It wasn't as simple as killing Chu Feng. They wanted to grasp this fleeting opportunity to charge into Earth and seize its fortunes. At this level, the leaders were all Golden Arhut. In the eyes of ordinary evolvers, they were already considered powerhouses. It was too easy for them to do certain things. The space outside of Earth gradually quieted down. Each group occupied a region and waited for the gap to appear. It was reported that it would appear in a few days, or a few months at most. At this time, almost all of the leaders were holding some ancient maps in their hand. They had spent a lot of money to purchase these maps. The imperial courts, evolutionary sacred grounds, and underwater caves of the glorious ancient era were all marked on the map. They were studying them because their time in Earth was bound to be very short, so they had to choose a good target. When the time came, they would use the strength of a Golden Arhut to quickly break the restriction and directly plunder the fortune of the land. He needed to end the battle quickly. Time was limited. In the universe, there were still teams rushing over. There were interstellar hunters, experts from the Holy Lands, as well as great bandits wandering in the starry skies. The composition was complicated. However, each team had as few as 20 to 30 people, and as many as no more than 100 people. This was because the cost of traveling across the universe was very high. Wormholes were charged based on the number of people who used them. This industry was almost monopolized by the Wormhole Express Company. Some of the more powerful orthodoxies also had such techniques, but they were ultimately not professional enough. For example, ensuring the absolute safety of the route, avoiding the attack area of the cosmic beasts, and the issues of time and cost involved. At this rate, densely packed creatures were bound to appear outside Earth, and teams would rush over from time to time. There was only a small group of people who truly wanted to kill Chu Feng. 90% of them wanted to seize the opportunity. Earth, Eastern Sea. Chu Feng was feeling the pressure. He was walking in the sea, frowning as he read the various messages on his photon computer. It would be absolutely terrible if a Golden Arhut level evolver were to come in. The water rippled as Chu Feng found Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and the others. He then jumped onto the multicolored ship. Ziluan immediately reported to Chu Feng that Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu wanted to escape and even bribed them. However, Xi and Yuan Mo refused and captured them. "When are you going to remove the profound magnetic needles from our bodies?" Ziluan had a bitter look on her face. It wasn't that she didn't want to escape, but she was afraid that the profound magnetic needles in her body would explode. It had only been a few days, but she already felt that something was wrong. Some parts of her body were aching, which meant that Chu Feng wasn't trying to scare her. As long as she left him, the profound magnetic needles might flare up. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chu Feng extracted some of the profound magnetic needles from Ziluan and Yuan Mo as a reward. Then, he gave the two of them several golden snake fruits and a black jade bottle to each of them. Heavenly Flame Elixir. Ziluan was pleasantly surprised. This item was extremely valuable and extremely beneficial for cultivating secret art. It could shorten the time needed and nourish the body after absorption. Yuan Mo was surprised. He hadn't expected Chu Feng to give them the Heavenly Flame Elixir. On the side, Zhang He and Li Feng looked on anxiously. They indeed wanted it but were too embarrassed to ask. Wouldn't that be lowering their heads to this demon? In short, the two couldn't put down their pride. Some people want to escape, but you two didn't stop them. There's no need to think about the heavenly flame elixir, Chu Feng said. Zhang He and Li Feng were incomparably disappointed and somewhat regretful. Afterward, the demoness Zhao Qing couldn't take it anymore. She was enchanting and asked Chu Feng for credit. She was the first to notice that the two wanted to escape and then informed Zi Luan. Not far away, Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu were both pale and furious. They stared at Zhao Qing and felt betrayed. Their beautiful eyes were spewing fire. Zhao Qing said disdainfully, "What are you staring at? You two secretly discussed taking me with you and then leaving me behind to attract the pursuers. Don't think I don't know." Chu Feng revealed a smile after hearing this and also gave Zhao Qing a bottle of heavenly flame elixir as a reward. The demoness immediately smiled sweetly and became even more charming. Her slender figure swayed as she walked over gracefully to massage Chu Feng's back. "As for you two," Chu Feng looked at Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu and said, "Tell your families to prepare 1 billion cosmic dollars each." Ah! The two turned pale. They had already paid a protection fee to be detained here. Now they had to collect more? This demon was too despicable and lacked morals. In the starry skies, Grandpa Luo and Grandpa Qi's hearts were dripping blood after hearing the news. Demon King Zhao's granddaughter was making money. It had only been a few days and she had obtained an astonishing bottle of heavenly flame elixir. Yet, their granddaughter was asking them to pay a protection fee again and again. At first, the two were angry and wanted to be unyielding. But the demon shamelessly told them in private that if they didn't pay, he would wait to see their granddaughter's artistic photos. He promised to broadcast them live on the Origin Beast platform. The two old men's faces immediately turned green. What artistic photos? Bullshit. The two knew that the little demon wanted to sell photo albums. That was because the demon had previously said that he could sell divine sons, saintesses, and photo albums. "Miaoxiang, don't run if you don't have a good opportunity. Grandpa doesn't have much money left in his coffin," Grandpa Luo warned weakly. Grandpa Qi also warned his granddaughter to stay calm and not run away in a hurry. Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu wanted to vomit blood after hearing such warnings. Was this really their grandpa? Was he not letting them escape just to save cosmic dollars? "Grandpa, what's the meaning of this? You're actually advising us not to run? Are you even his biological daughter? Are you going to sell me to this demon for some worldly possessions?" The two girls were indignant. "Don't speak nonsense. Miaoxiang, I've already contacted the damning Pure Land. We'll wait for your distant cousin Qin Luoyin to come out of seclusion. Stay calm for now. If you run away again, your grandpa's coffin will be completely spent." Grandpa Luo was in low spirits. He had no choice but to bleed profusely this time. Afterward, Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu's treatment on the multicolored ship dropped rapidly. They no longer needed to massage Chu Feng's back and were given leg massages instead. At the same time, they were in charge of boiling water for Chu Feng's bath. The two couldn't take it anymore. As saintesses of their respective races, they could be considered the proud daughters of heaven on their respective planets. But after arriving on Earth, they had become slaves. Qi Yu was dissatisfied and said angrily, "Chu Feng, you've gone too far. How dare you bully us like this? You have to know that Miaoxiang's cousin is Qin Luoyin. You can't do this for her sake." Chu Feng was very calm and said, "I wouldn't order you around if you weren't Qin Luoyin's cousin. Go, bring me some water to wash my feet." "Ah!" The two girls shrieked. This was truly unbearable. He still had to bring water to wash his feet? In truth, Chu Feng was using the heavenly flame elixir to cultivate. Sometimes, he would smear it all over his body, and sometimes he would soak his feet to absorb its essence. This thing was indeed extraordinary. After smearing the heavenly flame elixir on his body, there was a burning sensation. However, it made his nerves react faster and his mind sharper. The effects were extraordinary when cultivating secret arts. Additionally, the heavenly flame elixir contained substances that nourished the body. It couldn't compare to the hellish ant elixir, but it was still pretty good. In just one day, his constitution had increased by around 15%. Chu Feng drew in a breath of cold air. No wonder Ziluan was excited and Yuan Mo was pleasantly surprised. This thing was truly extraordinary. He carefully looked it up on the photon computer. The heavenly flame elixir was priceless and could even be used by golden Arhat level evolvers. It could help in cultivating secret arts and also nourish the body. At most, it could increase one's constitution by around 30%. This was a permanent increase. As long as one didn't surpass the golden Arhat level, it was suitable for all evolvers. Chu Feng realized that he had almost overlooked the heavenly flame elixir because its effects were too astonishing. This was definitely a rare mineral medicine. To be able to increase one's constitution by 30% was an extraordinary achievement for evolvers. Chu Feng checked the price and found that it was indeed a sky-high price. A portion of the heavenly flame elixir was worth 5 billion cosmic dollars. The key was that he had obtained a lot this time. Added together, there was a small pond of it. There were at least 50 portions, if not 100. This is even more profitable than selling divine sons and saintesses. Chu Feng was in a daze. He had truly been negligent. When Luo Miaoxiang and Qi Yu braced themselves and followed Ziluan's instructions in grief and indignation to help Chu Feng wash his feet, their eyes immediately went wide. This black jade basin was actually filled with a scarlet liquid, the heavenly flame elixir. Be careful when you walk. You're about to bump into me. Chu Feng reminded them to express his dissatisfaction. He indicated that they could put down the basin and sat there, preparing to soak his feet. The two girls watched on anxiously. They really wanted to say that this was a reckless waste of natural resources. One portion of the heavenly flame elixir had to be used 8 to 10 times. In order to fully absorb the medicinal effects, he had to carefully apply it to his body and was incomparably thrifty. But what did they see before their eyes? This fellow was using 3 portions at once. Goddamn it, they really wanted to curse out loud. He was actually using it to soak his feet. Saintesses, do my feet look good? Chu Feng dangled his feet and revealed them amidst the scarlet liquid. He wasn't completely narcissistic. They were indeed sparkling like pure white jade because his body had been continuously transforming recently. The two girls immediately turned red and quickly came back to their senses. The heavenly flame elixir should be smeared all over the body. It's the best and easier to absorb, Qi Yu said in a low voice. She truly felt that this was a kind of squandering. Even the most powerful saintess on a planet couldn't help but shake her head endlessly. This kind of waste was too shameful. Chu Feng smiled and said nothing. He knew his own situation. He circulated the robbery induction breathing technique and his feet were like root. He could completely absorb the essence of the heavenly flame elixir without wasting anything. He had used a large amount of the heavenly flame elixir in one go to increase his constitution by 30%. He had no time to slowly grind because a powerful enemy could appear at any time. Chu Feng, come over for a chat. It was at this time that a faintly discernible voice rang out beside Chu Feng's ears. Who are you? He raised his head and stared at a certain part of the sea. Chapter 528. Chu Feng realized that this old man was very strong and not an ordinary evolver. Yuan Mo, Ziluan, and Zhao Qing were bewildered. They hadn't sensed anyone approaching or heard anyone speak, but judging from Chu Feng's reaction, there was clearly someone. This old man invites little friend to have some tea. Chu Feng's fiery eyes gazed at the surface of the sea. He couldn't see with his normal eyes, so he could only use his eye arts to scan the area. Here. Sure enough, he saw a small boat made of dark green bamboo. There were even green leaves growing on some of the bamboos. There was a refreshing aura that blended in with nature. On the small bamboo boat there was a small red clay stove, a table, and a tea set. An old man with white hair and beard was sitting cross-legged with a warm smile on his face. The blue sea was calm and tranquil. The small boat came unhurriedly, carrying with it some white mist that blocked everyone's probing. Chu Feng didn't walk over. He chose to retreat in the face of the unknown and this unfathomable expert. He personally steered the multicolored ship and performed a spatial jump, crossing the void in an instant. With a swoosh, he directly disappeared from this place. His actions were decisive, and he appeared in the southern sea. Chu Feng felt that he wasn't the old man's match. The difference in their levels of evolution was too great. He didn't understand the other party at all and didn't know what would happen if he approached rashly. He didn't want to put his safety in the hands of others and wait for them to decide. Little friend, don't misunderstand. I really don't have any enmity. However, a calm voice was heard once again. Not far away, the small green boat rose and fell with the waves. This was terrifying. In just a moment, the old man and the small boat had followed him from the eastern sea to the southern sea, crossing tens of thousands of kilometers of sea. Chu Feng left the multicolored ship and disappeared from the sea with a flash. In fact, he had approached the small boat and boarded it. Behind him, Yuan Mo, Zhao Qing, Ziluan, and the others looked as if they had seen a ghost. He had disappeared just like that and could no longer be sensed. Chu Feng took the initiative to board the small boat because he knew he couldn't leave. This old man's strength was beyond imagination. Even the multicolored ship couldn't shake him off with its spatial jump. As such, there was no need to try to hide. Fiery golden eyes. Sigh, an eye technique that makes one envious. It is truly formidable, even stronger than the heavenly eye. Even the heavenly eye cannot see this bamboo boat. The elder sighed softly. Is that so? Chu Feng only said one word. You don't have to worry about the surveillance of the extraterrestrial eyes here. They can't see through you. The old man smiled and told Chu Feng that the crystallized heaven's eyes didn't have the ability to see through fabrications. My name is Yuchi Kong, of the Earth's Hidden Clan. The old man introduced himself. Chu Feng looked at him and said, Your race doesn't live in secret realms. Have you always lived in the main space of Earth? This was because he was certain that this old man was an old monster who had surpassed the visualization realm. He was extremely powerful, and it was reasonable to say that this kind of person shouldn't have come into being at this time. Yuchi Kong laughed and said, There are always exceptions, and there are always some accidents. Someone guided me over to cross over into Earth's main space. He calmly told Chu Feng that their hidden clan was indeed residing in a secret realm, but someone had guided them over. How? Although Chu Feng had asked this, he had already guessed what was going on. He just wanted to confirm it. A young man received the approval of an extremely powerful energy pagoda and guided me over, Yuchi Kong informed. As expected. Chu Feng nodded. Just like Linoi, she had obtained a superstar energy pagoda. This kind of ancient and incomparably powerful inheritance was recognized by the Earth's consciousness and could construct a bridge across folded space. Back then, Linoi had used the superstar energy pagoda as bait to make the Great Chi Prince and the others believe that a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity had arrived. They had asked her to help them cross over. In the end, Linoi had killed almost all of them during the battle on Mount Lao. Only Chi Yu had escaped. You grew up on Earth and will face the same enemy in the future. You must support each other in the future. The old man smiled. Chu Feng naturally knew who he was talking about. That person had obtained an extraordinary energy pagoda. Just how great of an opportunity was this? He had a feeling that this energy pagoda wasn't simple at all. Naturally, I also hope to have someone to fight against the outer realm enemies with me. Is he going to appear? Chu Feng asked calmly. Everyone has their own path. He's not the same as you. I'll let you meet in a while, but it's not time for him to appear yet. Chu Feng looked at him without saying anything. He carries too many burdens and shouldn't appear too early. He'll face the 10 greats in the future and have to contend with the strongest Tao children. He'll slaughter saints, overturn everything, and restore Earth to its former glory. The old man's emotions were infected as he spoke. He sighed and said, I'm a bit excited. It seems this person we've never met is quite extraordinary, Chu Feng said. Yuchi Kong nodded and said, yes, his talents are indeed outstanding and rare. Whether it's physical arts or spiritual arts, he's able to learn them very quickly. Chu Feng didn't say anything. He could feel that Yuchi Kong held that person in high esteem and wasn't stingy with his praises. At this time, the water in the red clay stove was already boiling. The old man washed the tea set and took out a number of translucent tea leaves from the jade jar. The colors were all different. Some were golden yellow, some were scarlet red, and some were as white as jade. The tea leaves were very special. When the water fell into the tea set, a fragrance assailed the nostrils and pervaded the air, calming everyone's hearts for a moment. These are the leaves of the divine tea tree on earth from ancient times. It can no longer be found nowadays. It must have fallen into the 10 greats and become the exclusive tea tree of a certain peerless race. Zhou Shang had a great fortune and obtained a jar of divine tea. He gifted me some and invited you to have a taste. The old man finally revealed the person's name, Zhou Shang. Chu Feng was astonished. He had already sensed that this person seemed to have obtained many fortunes. He had even obtained the divine tea from before. This kind of tea can help one calm the mind and quicken the mind. It'll be twice the result with half the effort when comprehending a certain technique. Yuchi Kong laughed. Please. The old man gestured for him to drink the tea. The jade cup was sparkling and translucent with a number of leaves glowing within. A mass of light curled up within the cup, creating an extraordinary scene. The fragrance of the tea refreshed the mind and seeped into one's bones. Chu Feng drank some and began to deduce the Eastern Violet Chi Fist and the Heavenly Halberd 9 forms. He had to admit that his mind was clear and his thoughts were indeed sharper than usual, but it wasn't enough to change anything. Good tea, thank you, Chu Feng said. Since little friend likes it, I'll give this half a jar to you, Yuchi Kong said as he passed the jar forward. A gentleman doesn't take what others like. Chu Feng shook his head and pushed the jade jar back with great seriousness. If a group of divine sons and saintesses were to hear this, they would surely curse out loud. What dogsh * tea not taking what others like? Even the old man Yuchi Kong revealed an odd expression but quickly concealed it. Apparently, he was also a bit surprised by Chu Feng's words. It wasn't his style at all. The two drank tea and chatted harmoniously. At least, that was how it seemed on the surface. Chu Feng was astonished. He was moved after a brief understanding. That person seemed to have obtained many great fortunes and was a true heaven's chosen. This was something Yuchi Kong had said unintentionally. It could only be considered bits and pieces, but it was enough to frighten people. Little friend Chu Feng, I have a presumptuous request, the old man suddenly said. Chu Feng was startled and looked at him in puzzlement. I heard little friend went to the Qinling Mountains and saw a damaged energy pagoda. You must have taken something from there. This old man wishes to request it on behalf of Zhou Shang. When Chu Feng heard these words, his body tensed up and his pupils contracted. Was the main show coming? How could he hand over the silver box? Inside was the robbery induction breathing technique. Even though he still couldn't open it, Yao Yao had already told him about it. At the same time, Chu Feng was terrified. How did the old man know about such a top secret? Only the toad Ouyang Feng had been by his side at that time and had witnessed everything. Little friend, you must be curious as to how we know. It's because Zhou Shang obtained the oldest and most orthodox energy pagoda on Earth. There's a record of what he wants to inherit. There's an inheritance buried in the Qinling Mountains. When we went there, we discovered that little friend had beaten us to it. I did go there, but I didn't obtain anything. The old man said, little friend, there's no need to deny it. Zhou Shang obtained the oldest energy pagoda with the highest authority. He's already fused with the damaged pagoda and understood everything. Chu Feng was shaken. He realized that this was indeed possible. Every energy pagoda was like black technology and seemed to have its own will. The pagoda in the Qinling Mountains was damaged, but it indeed understood everything. Although he couldn't deny it, Chu Feng wouldn't hand it over. Why should he hand over the fortune he had obtained to the old man in front of him, and then give it to Zhou Shang? Zhou Shang obtained the oldest energy pagoda on Earth. It's all-encompassing and contains all kinds of technique. He went to look for the silver box and wanted to see what was inside to verify it. After looking, he'll return it to little friend. Chu Feng said, it's only the first time we've met. Doesn't Senior feel that it's too rash and inappropriate? Not to mention the robbery induction breathing technique, even ordinary inheritances shouldn't be asked for like this. Chu Feng couldn't possibly agree. But this old man felt that Zhou Shang should take a look. Both of you are stars of hope for Earth's rise. You should support each other and not be selfish, said Yuchi Kong. Chu Feng frowned. This was the first time they'd met and they didn't understand each other. This old man was preaching and demanding the most important ultimate breathing technique on him. How was this possible? Is this Zhou Shang's intention or Senior's? If you want to communicate, you can ask him to bring the oldest energy pagoda over and let me see it. The old man was silent after hearing this. In the end, he sighed and said, that pagoda concerns too much. It can't be revealed. Then he said, I want little friend to understand that helping Zhou Shang now is very important to you, me, and to the current Earth. Chu Feng realized that some of the outer realm beings' speculations might have come true. The heavens' chosen ones on Earth were divided into the so-called false and true ones. That was because he could clearly feel that in this old man's heart, Zhou Shang was the orthodox one and the only one who would lead Earth to endless glory. He understood that Zhou Shang might be the so-called Earth's true one. At the very least, that was how Yuchi Kong saw him. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.